Join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Former Conservative Whip Chris Pincher faces questioning by the authorities as one of his accusers prepares to make a statement to the police. Well, what about that? Good morning to you. At the time, 6 o'clock on this Monday, the 4th of July.
Yeah, you're watching and listening to Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel Webster. Here's what's leading the news this morning.
A young Conservative activist who accused suspended Conservative MP Chris Pincher of groping him is now planning to make a statement to the police. It comes after 6 new allegations were made against the former Deputy Chief Whip over the weekend.
Donald Trump's reportedly preparing to launch an early bid for the 2024 US presidency. Sources close to the former president said he could announce as early as today during America's 4th of July celebrations.
A gunman has killed 3 people and wounded several others at a shopping mall in Copenhagen.
A Harry Styles concert, which was due to take place nearby, was cancelled and fans asked to leave the area. And the Queen's role's been formally rewritten for the first time in more than a decade to scale back her duties and allow Prince Charles to take on more. It comes after mobility issues forced her to pull out of a series of events earlier this year.
Well, if you can hear me, can you hear me? Good. You can join in any of our discussions by emailing gbviews@gbnews.uk. You can tweet at GB News.
And we are on the lookout for a People's Champion. So if you know someone special who you think deserves some recognition, please get in touch and let us know all about it, because we want to highlight the good things that we know are happening right across the British Isles. Email them in with the subject title, Breakfast People's Champion.
And we'll be revealing who those people are this week.
Yeah, very soon. Looking forward to that. So our top story this morning, the former Conservative Deputy Chief Whip, Chris Pincher, could face questioning by police as another groping allegation has come to light.
The accusation comes from a constituency member who says he was groped in a car by the Tamworth MP last year.
Well, in Westminster, there's anger within the Tory party over the handling of the allegations, with MPs putting pressure on the Prime Minister to make clear that Pincher should resign as a Member of Parliament.
Joining us now, political commentator Jonathan Gibson. Jonathan is a commentator for Young Voice on all of this. I suppose you look at this and this accusation coming from a young person.
Yes, I mean, it's just unbelievable. There have been several young people in Parliament who said they don't actually feel safe working in there and walking around there, which is quite a shocking thing considering you're supposed to have the people who are representing our country, representing our values as a country, who are working there, and they should be following the line of the law. They should be following the values that we want as a country and that we should be proud of.
So, where do we go with this story? Do we think that the Prime Minister is in big trouble over his sort of lack of judgment, given his past allegations against Pincher? Or do we think that Chris Pincher is showing a lack of judgment in not having basically resigned already?
I think they both are, to be honest. Chris Pincher's clearly shown a lack of judgment in more than just not resigning, in terms of this has been a long problem going back all the way to 2017, where there were allegations made against him. And he hasn't resigned yet, which is quite shocking considering what he's done and who he's representing, which is us as people. But then Boris also has not exactly been a paragon of virtue in removing him, so it took him a long delay between him resigning as Deputy Chief Whip from actually being suspended from the Tory party. So this was after only a lot of pressure that came under.
Yeah, I'm looking at the front page of the Metro here. They're saying the Prime Minister said to have quipped in 2020 about Pincher, he's handsy. That's the problem. Pincher by name, Pincher by nature. And Dominic Cummings, the ex-advisor of the Prime Minister, has made a similar claim in all of this as well.
We should, I suppose, at this point out that they are allegations at the moment. Nothing's been proved. They've all been denied as far as we know. But, you know, this is a headache. This is a problem. What's the resolution in all this? How quickly can the Tory rebels, who were already, let's be honest, disgruntled with the Prime Minister, see this resolved?
Well, it comes down to a lack of judgment again, doesn't it? If is the case that we're hearing from both Cummings and the Prime Minister, if this is true, they knew this man's reputation, yet he is still appointed in a position of trust and authority.
Exactly, and it's more than just Dominic Cummings, actually, that are saying that he's got a reputation for doing this sort of stuff. There have been several other MPs that have come forward, and clearly in the House of Commons, people knew him as this sort of a character, and there is lack of being held to account. So you were mentioning how do you hold these people to account? Part of the problem is that a lot of MPs are very, very tied closely with Boris Johnson. Their careers are so tightly closed to him that it's, for their career, it's obviously possibly not the best thing if they were to criticise. But on a moral level, it's just, how can you do that? How can you not criticise Boris on what's going on, and how can you not criticise?
Very short-sighted as well to take that approach, because this could well end up in a third by-election. The last two most recent ones, hugely disastrous. And if this pattern continues, they'll be out of power after the next election.
For sure, and I think that's part of the reason why Boris doesn't want him to resign. It's because he doesn't want another by-election. And also, Pincher was an arch-loyalist. Contrasted Neil Parish, who was essentially kicked out straight away from the Tory party, who was more independently minded. Here, Pincher is a massive supporter of Boris. He's always followed the line. And so for Boris, it's politically harmful to have him gone, even if this person's clearly been morally, allegedly, not very upstanding.
Jonathan, the story making the front pages yesterday was about a tax cut, and it's quite complicated with national insurance. One minute we hear it's going up, now it's going down, or thresholds are being raised, or where are we at with that, and how is this likely to go down?
OK, so here the national insurance threshold has been raised. So the Tories are branding this as a £6 billion tax cut, which they're calling the biggest tax cut of the decade. So the national insurance threshold is being raised from £9,880 to £12,570. They're saying this is lifting 2.2 million people out of paying national insurance.
Isn't it just giving back money they've already taken from these people?
So, yes, they obviously have been increasing taxes, and in some ways you could say that it is doing that, but obviously there have been unprecedented times in the last several years. So there's been COVID, there's been Brexit, there's been obviously what's happening in Ukraine, where we're essentially paying for freedom with our pockets. So this is a way in which they're trying to relieve the cost of living crisis, which is so harmful at the moment. Except
no mention of fuel duty, cuts of VAT, any of the kind of obvious ones where people were expecting some sort of announcement.
So there is a small
to have a sort of op-ed by the Chancellor and the Prime Minister in a Sunday paper announcing this, rather than this being announced at the dispatch box or whatever it might be.
So there is a small cut in fuel duty for about at least £400 for each household, and at least £1,200 for 8 million most vulnerable households. But contrast that to the increase in the cost of living, where it's gone on average. Just since the start of the year to April, it went from £1,200 to £1,900, which is a far greater increase, and it's expected to go up to £3,000. So even though it might be saving households on average, they're saying £330, a massive increase in the cost of living is far, far greater than the decrease caused by the cuts.
Bono, forgive me if I'm confused about all of this, but why put national insurance up in the first place? So as Isabel was saying, it's all smoke and mirrors. You put it up and then you announce you're bringing it down for a certain amount of people, and then that's regarded as a cut.
Yeah, it's in some ways it is a level of spin. It is trying to show, because what they're worried about is people have been accusing Rishi and Boris of complacency over the cost of living crisis and not taking it seriously and not understanding. So this is sort of their attempt to show that they do care about people that are really suffering, and people are having to choose essentially between heating their homes and putting 3 meals on the table. So it really is stinging, and so they're trying to show here that they do care about these people.
Well, Jonathan, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Very interesting to get your take on things there. Jonathan represents the organisation Young Voice. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Now, we turn our attention across the pond. It could be a big day in the States if rumours are to be believed, because Donald Trump is thought to be announcing his candidacy for president in 2024 this month, with suggestions it could be as early as today.
Well, according to sources close to the former president, he's been eyeing up America's 4th of July celebrations to launch his latest bid to return to the White House.
Well, we're now joined by Qasim Rashid. He's a human rights lawyer and a Democratic congressional candidate who joins us from Chicago. A very good morning to you. Obviously, you come from the other side of the political divide, so you aren't going to be able to give us any insight, I'd imagine, into whether or not this is likely to happen today. If it does, though, is this a good thing or a bad thing for the Democrats? I mean, could it be an automatic disaster for the Democrats?
Well, thank you for having me. And I think the broader picture to look at is whether this is good or bad for the country. Sometimes you have to put country over party, and this is definitely one of those times. Every day, this person is allowed to continue to campaign and promote this misinformation of a stolen election or a rigged election. It's devastating to our democracy. And I hope that the January 6th hearings, which have been extraordinarily powerful and insightful, are a red flag to the Attorney General's office, to Democratic leadership, and hopefully to Republicans with a conscience that this is not democracy, this is not sustainable, this is not justice. And whether he announces or not, I think the broader question has to be, how are we going to respond to a person who tried to have his own vice president killed by insurrectionists and is completely unapologetic since then?
Don't disagree with you on what you're saying there, but the extraordinary thing is, and we have a percentage of viewers who watch us who would think the same, they don't like any criticism of Boris Johnson, they don't like any criticism of Donald Trump. And I just look at these congressional hearings and you go, how on earth is this man still on the political stage after the revelations that are being made? But the fact is this, and it may be a hard fact for you to swallow, he probably would still beat Joe Biden if Biden ran again.
Well, remember, Joe Biden beat him the first time handedly by 7 to 8 million votes and by almost 100 electoral votes. And the polling shows that even right now, before the latest Cassidy Hutchinson January 6th hearing, 58% of people across the spectrum want this man to be prosecuted for his crimes against the United States, for committing an insurrection. It's up to the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, to make that decision. But this is also where I put pressure on top Democrats, establishment Democrats, who have the ability to speak from the bully pulpit and put pressure on the AG's office that this is not a matter of political expediency or political awkwardness. This is a matter of saving our republic, saving our country from falling into fascism, from falling into minority rule. And those establishment Democrats who are staying silent, I think, are doing a big disservice, because we know, unfortunately, Republican politicians have fallen in hook, line, and sinker, with the exception of a few. It's up to Democratic leadership to not allow this to perpetuate. And I would encourage them to be loud, to be vocal, and to ensure that this person is held accountable for the sake of all people in America, regardless of political affiliation.
But Qasim Rashid, that Democratic leadership is clearly lacking in the form of President Biden. I mean, objectively, you have to be able to see that he looks like he's asleep at the wheel. That's not a political commentary. That's not a personal comment. It's just a fact. But quite aside from that, he has been at the top of the country, presiding over huge problems, which have got worse whilst he's been in power.
Well, I think there's certainly legitimate criticisms of President Biden. There's also legitimate praise, passing the infrastructure bill, extending the child tax credit. There were some good things that happened there as well. But I think this is really my message to the American people as a whole is that, politics, a status quo hasn't worked. And in part, it hasn't worked because too many of us are not active enough in politics. Remember, despite record turnout in the 2020 election, the largest demographic of registered voters were people who didn't vote. 101 million Americans didn't vote. And I know it can sound horrifying to say you need to keep voting because every election is the most important one, but it's simply true. The great late John Lewis once said that democracy is not a state, it's an act. And it's critical that we activate, we mobilize, we organize, and starting at the grassroots level, we work our way up and make sure that we're electing people truly funded by we the people. They don't take corporate money, they don't take dark money, but they're funded by the people, and that's who they are responsible to. And so that's my message to my fellow Americans, that at the end of the day, pointing fingers is part of the, recognizing what the problem is, but know the power that we have in our hands, in our vote, in our knocking doors and making phone calls. That's what I would call people to do, to make sure that we are doing everything possible to uphold true justice and protect our democracy.
Qasim, I just want to say to you, happy 4th of July, whatever that means. What does it mean to you today, in whatever way? What form does the day take, or do you take time to reflect on your country and where it's going and what it's doing?
Absolutely. I think two things can be true at once. One, that America's independence and its founding is very tragic. It's founded on the genocide of Native Americans and the enslavement of Africans. But I think it's also true to recognize that we have made progress. We have become a more perfect union. We certainly have a lot to do to make amends and to ensure accountability for those horrors committed in the past and for the systemic injustices being committed today. But at the same time, we still live in a democracy. We still have the ability to make sure that we are working together, fighting for justice, upholding and elevating each other, regardless of faith, color, or creed. And that's, again, my view of this holiday, that while recognizing our country's history, we can be grateful to the freedoms this country offers us, to the opportunities this nation offers us. And that's something that I think is absolutely worth fighting for, despite how desperate it looks right now. I believe that if we work together, we stay focused, stay committed to justice, we can absolutely elevate our country out of this difficult situation and return to a path of becoming a more perfect union, as our Declaration of Independence calls us to do.
OK, Qasim Rashid, Democratic congressional candidate, speaking to us from Chicago, no less, this morning. Really good to get your thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
On this Monday, the 4th of July, and the time is 16 minutes past 6 o'clock. Let's bring you up to date with news.
3 people have been killed and another 3 are in a critical condition in hospital after a shooting in Denmark. Footage shows people running from the Fields shopping centre in the city, where police arrested a 22-year-old suspect. A Harry Styles concert nearby was cancelled and fans told to leave the area.
Serious disruptions expected today amid protest over high fuel prices. Demonstrators are expected to target motorways across Britain, with warnings that the River Severn Bridge crossings there will be blocked.
A number of postal workers have been left with permanent and disabling injuries from dog attacks, with more than 1,600 incidents reported in the last year. A total of 1,673 attacks were recorded. That's an average of 32 every week across the UK, according to the Royal Mail.
As you may well have noticed, Isabel has dressed in honour of the Royal Mail today.
This isn't what the Royal Mail wears.
So that's a little posty outfit.
My makeup artist this morning, she said I look like I work for British Airways.
Have you had a makeup artist today?
Oh, God, it's unbelievable. God, 18 minutes in and it's already started.
But that's little, you see, that's like the insignia. If you work for the Royal Mail...
It's very smart.
Yeah, you get a jacket that's blue with red piping, like that. But the dog thing, no laughing matter.
I mean, tell everyone about what happened to your brother.
He put his finger through the letterbox.
Because he's a postie, I should just say.
As opposed to a burglar. And he put his hand through the letterbox and a dog took the end of his finger off. So it did.
So he is one of those stats, one of the people who've been permanently left
disabled. But they're warned not to put their fingers through a letterbox. How
are you supposed to put your post in?
Apparently you leave it in boxes or you just, push it, edge it through bit by bit, but you don't put your finger, you don't use your finger to penetrate right through the other end, to the open end.
Yeah, no, well, that's obvious. I mean, that's probably...
Well, it might be obvious to you, but it's not obvious if you've lost the top of your finger, is it?
Well, yeah, it's very difficult, I'd imagine, to get your envelope.
He got his sewed back on again.
Did he?
They picked it up and they sewed it back on again.
Oh, my gosh. This is too early for that sort of chat. Did he have to put it on ice?
Well, I think so. But thank you to the medics involved in that.
Can he still bend it?
The point is, I think he can do everything he's supposed to be able to do with it. Can he send us some
pictures this morning and we can put them on the telly and talk about them?
Well, he'll be on his round today. He'll be out already doing that.
Oh.
But the thing is, of course, I mean, I'm a big dog fan, but I do remember as a paper boy when I was 11 and out on a paper round, dogs were the single biggest scary thing.
Yeah, I did a paper round and exactly the same thing, but I just didn't even try. If there was any sort of dog, the paper was chucked over the fence.
That's what they do in America, isn't it? You see in all those American movies, they're on a bike or whatever, and they just throw it into your front garden.
I'm not going in there. I'm scared of dogs anyway, generally. My natural disposition is fear, so I just think they're all going to attack me.
Well, they do if they sense that you're a vampire. It's just true. A dog has a sense. It knows if you're from a supernatural background.
I think they can sense that I'm nervous and they take advantage of that.
But you do have very long teeth. And you could be a vampire. But the dog will sense that you're... Does the dogs growl at you?
Sometimes.
And have you ever had any vampiric tendencies?
No, but I do now. I want to draw blood. Anyway, we're going to change the subject. Send in your stories about dogs and whether or not you think this is a nice dress.
Yes, take control. It's not a dress, it's a postie tunic. It's the posties wear that, red and blue.
I like it.
But keep the dogs under control, please, please, please.
Yeah, for goodness sake.
You know, Arwie dog, it's awful. I mean, I'm one of these people. Arwie dog wouldn't... I mean, she's frightened of her own shadow, but she barks.
She does growl. She growled at me. Now I think about it, she did.
Well, that's because you're a vampire. We know that.
What?
But she barks at every delivery person that comes to the door to protect us.
Yeah, but she's a rescue dog and you don't know what happened to her.
No,
so.
and you've got to keep saying to people, honestly,
Stop delivering.
She won't touch you. She won't touch you. But that's no consolation because you think she's like a killer dog, but she's not a killer dog at all. She doesn't
growl at you.
Doesn't growl at me.
While you're feeding her bacon under the table.
She loves me.
The two of you, honestly, I felt like we needed to get a room. We're sitting at the table and he's going, oh, Maggie, and Maggie going,
Yeah. That's
pure love.
That's because my wife just feeds her all this dry food or anything. She doesn't give her anything pleasant or lovely or...
And she sees you coming a mile off.
She knows, and she licks her lips. She licks her lips because she knows I'm going to give her the juicy, succulent stuff.
Yeah, well, that's called cupboard
nice
love.
Stuff. The Watsits and all the things you should
Stop.
have.
That's another story. We haven't got time for it. We need to move on because big royal news over the weekend. The Queen has had her official role changed for the first time in over a decade, and this is to allow her to step back from some of her official duties.
Now, all of this comes after she was forced to pull out of a series of events earlier this year due to mobility issues. Joining us now for more on this and other big royal stories, the broadcaster, the commentator, Rafe Hadel-Manku. Rafe, good to see you this morning, my friend.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You don't have a dog, do you, by any chance?
I'm allergic, so unfortunately I was only allowed to have goldfish as a pet growing up, so I've had a very short life animal-wise.
I did an awful thing once, completely accidentally, that I was changing the water in my goldfish bowl.
Oh, no, you threw the baby away with the bathwater.
No, I turned on the hot water and the goldfish then turned up and they go like the little U-shape. They go, and that was them dead. It was awful.
You're full of stories this morning.
But I did go to confession and confess.
You did? Well, that
priest.
makes
Yes,
it all
that's
okay.
So God forgive me.
Talking of dogs, I'm sure actually the Queen's got some growly... I think actually corgis are quite aggressive, aren't they?
Growlers. They are. They are. That's the thing.
Well, they're trained to bite the legs of cattle. So, yes, that's why they always go for your ankles whenever you're in the presence of a corgi.
Yeah. Oh, dear,
You
dear,
ask
dear.
good questions.
So, what do you make of what's happening back at Buckingham Palace, the scaling back of the Queen's duties?
I wish I was there in the studio with you today, actually. It looks like quite a good morning. Honestly, the first thing to say is that, whilst they are rewriting the Queen's formal duties, Her Majesty isn't really retreating that much from public life. Last year, Her Majesty, despite all of her health issues, has actually performed 201 engagements, which is 1/10 of the 2,500 engagements that the royal family has undertaken. So Her Majesty is still performing many of the necessary functions of receiving ambassadors and, signing, giving royal assent and signing documents and so forth like that. But understandably, this is a matter of common sense. We have the world's first 96-year-old monarch, and with that there comes complications. And so what's happened is not a constitutional change. This is an official rewriting of the Queen's roles in the Sovereign Grant Report, which is an annual financial document released by the royal household detailing the financial affairs of the monarchy and related subjects. And in that document, they have stated, they've revised the official roles that the Queen will play, becoming a bit more opaque about what those roles are. So the state opening of Parliament, the Queen no longer needs to do that. There never really was a constitutional requirement. Queen Victoria, after the death of Prince Albert, stopped opening Parliament. Royal Ascot, obviously not a constitutional event, but some of these roles now will be delegated to the Prince of Wales, who, of course, is already, in fact, as we've seen in the last few months, taking up much of that burden.
So seen, certainly in the last fortnight, is the newspapers turning a little bit, is it fair to say, on Prince Charles? The timing really unfortunate, as we see this handing over of power to the next future monarch. We're also seeing these exposés. I mean, I'm talking about the Sunday Times yesterday with the latest about this eco-village in Scotland, large sums of money changing hands. The previous weekend talking about suitcases full of cash. It's unfortunate timing.
It's unfortunate timing. One of my colleagues says it's very curious timing. So soon after the Platinum Jubilee success, someone has said that most of these stories are coming out of the Murdoch papers, and Rupert Murdoch is no great fan of monarchy. We know that for a fact. Whether that's a conspiracy or not, it's beyond my pay grade to know that. But a number of these stories aren't new stories, so someone has been sitting on some of these stories at least for a while. So why they've chosen to release them now is something to speculate on. But yes, of course, now we have the Office of the Scottish Charity Regulator looking into the purchase of a number of properties which Prince Charles had built in a very noble ambition and effort to encourage people to move into parts of Scotland that needed development and do it in an eco-friendly way. And these were purchased by Lord Brownlow, the major Tory donor who other people may know well from his involvement in refurbishing the number 10 Downing Street flat, decorated by Carrie Johnson in that maximalist style. But why this is happening now, we can only speculate. But it is a shame. But Prince Charles, of course, isn't innocent in this either, because there have been serious lapses of judgment, certainly in terms of accepting cash from the Qataris. And I think it's imperative now that the prince learns from this, that as he gets closer to exceeding the throne, he really needs to take a step back from making political statements, even in private, such as we saw with Rwanda, and ensuring that the transition to his succession is as smooth as possible.
Rafe, thank you very much indeed for your analysis and for your uptake there. We'll leave it there. Rafe's a royal broadcaster and commentator. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Rafe. Stay with us. Coming up after the break, we'll be asking, is it all over for the Great British Pub? I seriously hope not. We'll be speaking to a local landlady after this.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV. On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Right, the time is 6:29. Still to come on this morning's programme. We're going to be live and on your doorstep in Romsey in Hampshire.
Ooh.
Just before 7 this morning, as our reporter Jeff Moody asks locals there about the stories which matter most to them. I had a pen friend, actually, in Romsey. She's still there when I was a child, yeah. And then also coming up in the next hour, as fuel price protesters take to the A12, we'll be live from Colchester in Essex with our reporter Ed Crawford as the group set off on their demonstration. Find out more about that at 7:15. And as always, we want you to get in touch on email or on Twitter, gbnews @gbnews.uk, or tweet @gbnews. Emailing in and complaining that you were looking at your phone, but just to explain,
I'm researching.
We were in the advert break trying to remember the names of pubs in Northern Ireland, and you got straight on your phone.
No. We're talking about traditional names of pubs that are dying out. Not only pubs are dying out, but if your pub has got a name like it's got Royal in the title, or Crown in the title, or Prince in the title, Horse, Coach and whatever. These are yesterday's names. But I was saying, Belfast, you want to see the pubs in Belfast. I mean, one of the most popular is the Dirty Onion. Right.
It's such a strange name.
The Dirty Onion. But they're always got, I'm trying to see what else. They're always things. I say to my kids, where are you going tonight? And I'm out to the Dirty Onion or whatever they are. But there's other worse names than that one. But anyway, I digress.
You do.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the room.
Yeah.
Right, well, look, there are now fewer pubs in England and Wales, sadly, than ever on record. That's according to brand new research. The total number dropped below 40,000 during this year. That's a fall of more than 7,000 since a decade ago. Just think of all those businesses and really lovely community hubs that have just closed their doors. What have you got there?
The jaggy nettle.
What does that even mean?
Well, it means if you have a jaggy nettle, it means it stings you. Jaggy.
Okay.
It's jaggy. It's jaggy.
Right.
Right. So would you ever think, where are you going tonight? I'm going to the jaggy nettle.
I'm going to the Dirty Onion.
Yeah. The tipsy bird. Right. Why can't, there's no prince and horses there, is there, or anything? Right. Look at that
Pug
one.
uglies.
That's a real growler one. That is really. Look at that.
There's a pug ugly dog there.
Pug
dear.
ugly. I mean, it's only in Belfast, isn't it? Like, look at that one.
The thirsty goat. It's a lively crowd pleaser. The cloth ear.
I mean, why can't we just do... Oh, that's the worst.
Well, I'm not reading that out.
Filthy McNasties. Filthy McNasties in Belfast. It's in Skipper Street in Belfast. It's a must-visit for a pint and live music, right? I'm just telling you, our pubs aren't dying out. I'll tell you that. Filthy McNasties.
They might be on to something. Well, look,
yeah.
Let's speak to the local landlady of the Queen Charlotte in Windsor, Jess Hunter. Good morning to you, Jess.
You see, what you should, Jess, where you're going all wrong, you just need to be calling your pub the Pug Ugly, or the Cloth Ear,
or the Jaggy Nettle.
The Jaggy Nettle, or the Dirty Onion. That's what you need.
Maybe we'll try it.
Far too posh, your lot.
All right, well, next to Windsor Castle, the Dirty Onion would be quite funny, I think.
How can you go wrong being next to Windsor Castle? Surely you're not seeing a dip in trade.
Yeah, I'm afraid we all are. There's definitely a lack of sort of everything coming back since COVID over the last couple of years. We're seeing everything from sort of hopefully tourists are coming back now, but it's been a very, very slow build back, but also local businesses and people just out of the habit of coming to the pub. I think a lot of people who would go to the pub for their lunch break just aren't anymore, and we need to get people back in the habit, or stopping in at 5 o'clock when they finish work. People are now just going home, they're used to it, rather than coming out and having a few pints.
Gosh, and is this to do with a lot of people preferring to drink at home, or is booze cheaper to drink at home, or is it just, as you say, just society's lost that communal instinct of all coming together, unless it's a big event? I mean, I think of my little one's christening. We went to the pub after, that's still the kind of central place. Everybody had a little party there, but perhaps it's not the daily routine, as you say.
I think that's completely right. With everything going on in the economy, prices are just going up, and that's, we're having to put our prices up to reflect that. But for everybody, if everybody's feeling the pinch, and maybe people are going to the pub once a week instead of going, 2 or 3 times, or they're saving it for just with their families rather than going in after work. But unless you have, funny enough, our weekends are doing really well, so people are coming out, but rather than coming out during the week and coming in just for a little bit here and a little bit there, maybe a lunch here or a pint after work there, it's very much sort of saving it to go out for like a big night out. But we need the trade all the time. We need people really supporting us and coming out all the time and during the week. Otherwise, pubs are going to be seeing a massive decline.
But Jess, what do you do? I mean, it's like farmers having to diversify and, putting log cabins on their properties and, finding petting farms and all sorts of things like that. But, do you have to have music? Do you have to have TVs on showing
quizzes,
football and things? Yeah, what do you have to do?
Definitely. And live music is proving really popular, especially after the last few years where that's something that we haven't been allowed to do. So whenever we do run events like that, it's incredibly popular. But it is interesting, we're seeing very much different habits. And unless you are having events, it's massive, it's a struggle to try and get everybody down. And really, a good traditional pub, there's nothing like it anywhere else in the world. It really is sort of a community hub. As you said, you would go there for a little party after a christening, or even we have people come in for drinks after a wedding, but you'd also go for a few pints, but then you'd take Granny for a Sunday lunch. It's such a pillar of the community, and we need to keep them alive.
What about the sale of soft drinks? Have you seen the increase in that kind of genre? We always talk about the young people sort of turning away from booze. Is it not as much of a money spinner, perhaps, the sort of a glass of Diet Coke versus a pint?
No, it is. It's interesting because we do have quite an extensive range now of soft drinks, but not only sort of more interesting soft drinks, but also non-alcoholic sort of hard drinks, as you'd think. So definitely a rise in non-alcoholic beers. We've got non-alcoholic gin, and there definitely is a push for the non-alcoholic version of spirits and other drinks. But yeah, we've definitely, as opposed to sort of 5 years ago, we have a much more extensive range of soft drinks behind the bar, definitely.
Jess, have you ever had to say, "Get out of my pub"?
I have done, unfortunately, once or twice, and I usually get a round of applause for it.
Very good.
Very good. Jess Hunter is the landlady of the Queen Charlotte in Windsor. If you're passing by, give her a bit of trade. Lovely talking to you, Jess. Thank you very much indeed. So many fewer pubs all around the country than ever before. If you've got your view as to what it takes to keep the pub alive, let us know. Tweet us at GB News or email gbviews@gbnews.uk. We will take a break right there, and then we're serving you up Chris Sakabusi, the Olympian, and the president of the Law Society, Stephanie Boyce, with the newspapers.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio,
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
we don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Coming up to 20 minutes now before 7 o'clock, Eamonn and Isabel breakfast on GB News.
Let's bring you up to date with the latest headlines this hour. And the Prime Minister's facing calls to explain what he knew about allegations of inappropriate behaviour involving the MP Chris Pincher before giving him a top job. Boris Johnson's alleged to have called him Pincher by name, Pincher by nature, before making him Deputy Chief Whip of the Conservative Party.
The British Army has confirmed an investigation is underway after both their Twitter and YouTube accounts were hacked. The YouTube channel featured videos on cryptocurrency and images of billionaire businessman Elon Musk. The official Twitter account has retweeted a number of posts appearing to relate to NFTs, which are crypto assets.
Serious disruptions expected today amid protests over high fuel prices. Demonstrators are expected to target motorways across the UK with warnings the River Severn bridge crossings will be blocked.
Just one British singles player remains at Wimbledon as week 2 of the tennis tournament starts today. All Britain's hopes rest on Cameron Norrie, who faces Belgium's number 1 David Goffin tomorrow. I just want to say something about this crypto business and the hacking of the army's social media sites and things. I have been saying this for weeks and weeks and weeks. They infiltrate your messages, my messages, all sorts of people's messages on Instagram, on Twitter, whatever. We're not interested in how you
They're always
earn.
targeting you, aren't they?
Well, they'll target you now as well.
Right.
Now they'll do it. But these social media platforms need to do more about these people. They're not there to advertise their wares, or how Mrs. Smith can earn you all this money and whatever. It's all nonsense. It's all rubbish, and more should be done to get rid of them. And also, I'm sure there's more foul. There's absolutely ghastly things, but they infiltrate everywhere. A crypto craze. Don't know what it is. Don't care what it is. Get rid of them. That's all I would like to say. Chris Akabusi, the Olympian, and Stephanie Boyce. Stephanie is the president of the Law Society. And Chris, good to see both of you. And let's see, Chris, first of all, about Mr. Pincher and what everybody knew about him. This is the Times front page.
Yeah. So, claim is Pincher by name, Pincher by nature. And it's quite clear that some of the allegations set against him are not normal behaviour and unpalatable. But what we have now is a group of Tory rebels who are not happy with the Prime Minister, who are using any stick to beat him with. And this is the latest one. And apparently, the 1982 committee, where he recently sort of won the vote to sort of stay in for office for at least another year, the things can be changed, and this is going to be another thing that they're going to use to try to whip up the hysteria against Johnson. What's very clear about the Prime Minister is that he's not an attention to detail person. He can be a little bit lax with protocols. But Pincher, for example, was a whip in Prime Minister May's government. What did she know about Pincher back then? He was around in Cameron's government. What did he know about him back then? So all of a sudden now, this guy who's obviously got some merit at his job, or he wouldn't be given these positions, is now being used to batter Johnson with. And it just
But wait a minute, Chris. We don't know what May knew about him. We don't know what Cameron knew about him. But we do know that Boris Johnson knew about him, and that's all we need to know.
Well, no, it's not all we need to know. No, it's not at all. I mean, this guy...
He knew he was a toucher-upper. He knew he had a bad reputation.
Yeah, he knew
and he still let him in and around the office and put people at risk.
But the chap has been in the environment for the last 10, 12 years. So you cannot tell me that it's only just become apparent. No, but
what I'm saying is, if you were in the position of appointing him and you knew his reputation, would you have appointed him? Answer: no, you wouldn't have.
Look. Do you know that? Look, I don't want to be standing justifying Mr. Pincher. I don't know him, and what he's alleged to have done is beyond the pale. But there are many people who are in authority who hear rumour control, but I wasn't there in the room when it happened, so to give someone the benefit of the doubt. It's obvious that Johnson is a loyalty guy. He's got himself surrounded by people who he feels safe by, and he needs it, doesn't he? Look, I mean, week in, week out, Johnson is getting battered in the press, battered by the Tory rebels. He needs people around him who he thinks he can trust. I would agree that his judgment may have been a little bit off radar with Pincher. But my point is, he's been around for the last 12 years, and if he's got into that position, a lot of people outside of Johnson knew about him and could have blown the whistle.
I'm aware that we've got the president of the Law Society sitting here. I do feel the need at this point to stress these are allegations. Nothing has been proven at this point, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt in that regard. But your thoughts and assessment of the whole messy picture?
Well, my thoughts are with the victims of the misconduct, the alleged misconduct, inasmuch that they who speak out should be confident, and indeed the public should be confident, that processes, there are clear processes are in place to ensure that any investigation undertaken is undertaken in a fair, consistent and efficient and effective way. So my concern is around ensuring that victims can speak out when they need to and that they are confident that something will be done. It's not for me, obviously, to go into the specificity of details because there is an ongoing investigation taking place. But behind all of this are allegations and there are victims of sexual misconduct.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And so I wonder how many of the victims over the many years that this guy's been in post have either wanted to say something and have been squashed, or have said something and it's not been heard. So that's a very good point that's been made again.
Talking about victims, Stephanie, you want to go to The Guardian. This is the front page, and they talk about children of lone parents hit hardest during austerity.
Yeah, so half of all children in lone parent families are now living in relative poverty, and they reckon that the majority of the 1.8 million lone parent families in Britain, almost 9 in 10 are headed by a woman. And together they are raising 3.1 million children. And this has been the reason for this rise in poverty, in living conditions, is through successive cuts in support to single mothers, such as the benefit cap, 4-year freeze in benefits from 2016, 2-child limit, and a lowering of the age of the youngest child with single parents who are able to start work. But I was absolutely struck by the fact I mean, many things in this article, but that some parents are visiting food banks. I wasn't struck by that because we're hearing that time and time again. But they're going without baths, showers or basic toiletries. And, you know, on my way here this morning, I saw, you know, a husband and wife, I can assume, or a man and a woman, getting up out of the doorways of where they had slept for the night, you know, with their belongings and so forth. And I was absolutely struck by that. In a country such as ours, that we are seeing and reading and hearing about incidences like this, something needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a huge problem, isn't it? And the problem is, the fear is it's only going to get worse as we see everybody's living standards dropping and interest rates and inflation and everything else just spiralling.
Chris, I just want to move on to talk about the weather. And this is front page of the Star, 4th of July today. Mm-hmm. And they're saying happy scorch of July because the temperature is going to hit 36 degrees centigrade.
Yes, it's going to be a scorcher. And it's, I laugh. In the United Kingdom, we like to complain about the weather. If it's raining, we're complaining. If it's snowing, it's complaining. We can't go to work, it's snowing. We can't go to work because it's now too hot.
36 is hot.
We are not
set up for 36 degrees in this country.
No, but then again, it seems that we're not set up for any sort of weather, are we? When it's snowing, we're not set up for it, and when it's hot, we're not set up for it. Look, clearly, it's very, very hot. And when I once went to Madrid to play golf in June, July, and everyone in Madrid had left to go to the coast. It was only crazies, like holidaymakers, that were in Madrid. Yeah, look, so it may be hot. I love the heat. I'm not worried about that. I've got my financial controller. She doesn't like anything above 22 degrees. So, you know, I know some people...
Like me.
Yes, so some people will suffer in this... I don't like the picture of the chap they got. Actually, no, I can't say that, can I?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, can I?
You can have an opinion. Yeah. It's not exactly a glamorous photograph.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Guys in a vest.
Yeah, I don't know if they can put it, but the guy's bulging out all over the place, mate. Well, anyway.
Needs to go for a Anyway, right, should we talk about...
This is going to go on for a month, the point about this.
Yeah, but is this actually
well,
true?
It's this week.
They're always all over the place.
Yeah, look, this is a little bit of... They've got something to write. Lovely headline. Apparently, over this week, it's going to might get to 30 degrees. I think we had 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had quite a scorcher as well, didn't we?
But I read the forecast for our programme for this morning, and we're only getting 20 Celsius in London today, so I don't know what this 36...
Yeah, well, I think it's a projection
by the weekend.
Of where we're going to be by the weekend.
But can I say that, you know, on a serious note, as we're seeing the increase in energy prices, it is a worry, you know, because people are concerned, including my own mother, concerned about turning on her fan. I mean, I went round there the other day when we were having the heatwave, and, you know, she won't turn the fan on because she's worried. How many others are out there worried?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you what, just as you was talking there, Stephen, I was wondering, after all, but capturing the sun in the summer, some sort of storage system, it may not be there yet, but, you know, getting our best minds and brains focused on, OK, how do you capture this excess of sunlight, store it so that it can be secreted into the energy power system in the winter? I know it's a crazy idea, but many solutions start off with crazy ideas.
Indeed.
So there you go.
Indeed.
Love it.
Let's finish with Mickey Mouse in The Guardian. It tells you that Mickey Mouse, who I find one of the most irritating cartoon characters ever to be invented, with his little squeaky voice and whatever, could be history. Why is this, Stephanie?
Well, absolutely. So Mickey Mouse will enter the public domain in the year 2024, and that's almost 95 years after its creation because of the expiry of the copyright. But before everybody gets terribly excited, that is the first iteration of Mickey Mouse that apparently, in 1928, that apparently looked like a rat. Right. So it's not how we now know Mickey Mouse. So anybody wanting to take advantage of the expiry of the copyright has to be aware that they may find themselves in some legal wrangling if
But
they
you
do
say
so.
before everyone gets very excited. I mean, does anybody actually... I think of my kids, and we've never taken them to Disneyland, but it is something we plan to do one day. They wouldn't know who Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse
But I'll tell you,
are.
I hear what you're saying.
Kids don't know who they are, and
Yeah.
that's what this is a problem for Disney now, because you turn up and they want to
Yeah,
see
they're different
Moana,
characters
or they
on
want to
TV.
see
Yeah.
Frozen
Well,
characters, but they don't know who Mickey
The
Mouse is.
thing that I will never really forget is that you have these characters who walk about Disney,
Yeah.
and kids are just fixated. They're absolutely
they love
fixated.
them. Like Peppa Pig or somebody. But who are Mickey and Minnie Mouse? They just don't, it doesn't resonate.
That surprised me. And obviously, when my eldest, and they're in their 30s, were youngsters, we went to Disney, and they were absolutely enamoured.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy.
None of these characters anymore.
Goofy's got 10 hot dogs. You know, and these are some of the plays they were watching. So that, you know, they'd watch young cartoons, and they went, Goofy, where's your hot dogs? I mean, they're all over the place. So it's really surprising, in a space of 2 generations, I guess now, that it's been totally lost.
Yeah, totally.
But can I say, for the 3.1 million children living in poverty in Britain, I mean, they're not going to be able to go to see Minnie or Mickey Mouse, whether it's in a theatre or Disneyland, or perhaps not even on the television.
Sad.
Yeah.
Who did you like as a cartoon character? I always liked a bit of Bugs Bunny. King of them all was Top Cat.
No.
Top Cat to me.
Oh, do you remember Topo Gigio? No, you're too young.
No, I've never heard that one.
Any cartoon?
Well, I liked them all. Tom and Jerry.
Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, I liked them all.
Danger Mouse, I like.
Yeah, all of them.
There's a couple of things we want you to get in touch about. Your favourite cartoon characters, and also your favourite pub names, the most unusual pub names. We were talking about the Clothier and the Dirty Onion and whatever.
Or if your dog growls at the postman. We want to hear all your posty stories this morning.
Yeah, OK, please do. There's the time, 6 minutes now before 7.
Gosh, yeah, almost out of time. We've got time to squeeze in a little trip to On Your Doorstep.
Romsey in Hampshire is the destination of our reporter Jeff Moody. Hi, Jeff.
Hello to you, Eamonn. Yes, I'm here for On Your Doorstep in Romsey in Hampshire. That's in the heart of the Test Valley.
See the time.
Claim to fame, it was the home of Lord Mountbatten, who is the Queen's uncle, who was assassinated in 1979. He lived in Broadlands, just up the road from here. It was also where the Queen spent her wedding night, just so you know, and Princess Diana and Charles. So I'm just going to knock on some doors and see if I can find out what people in Romsey are making of the news. Let's try let's go for 53. See if anyone's in. It's a bit early to be knocking on people's doors, but you never know. There might be somebody around. If not, it's going to be a very embarrassing few moments of television. There's noise. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning, yes.
You're live on GB News.
Really? What, this time of day?
You are indeed. Just tell us your name, madam.
Heather Whittam.
Heather Whittam. Hello to you, Heather. What line of work are you in, Heather?
I'm retired.
Ah, very nice too. What did you do before you retired?
I was a farmer.
You're a farmer?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a strange place to find a farmer on the middle of a main road.
Very true. Very true. But a farmer all my life, farmer's daughter, continued farming. And I thought I'd like a change in life and come to town. I mean, isolation is farming and very hard work. So,
what's the situation like for farmers that you know nowadays? It's tough, isn't it?
Very tough. I've got 2 of my 4 sons still farm, so I can go back and just, you know, fiddle a bit, but I don't get involved. But it's as bad now, if not worse, when I was still farming.
And what's making it so bad, briefly?
Oh, the increase of that everybody's experiencing, as you can imagine, with the diesel for the tractors, fertiliser for the fields, everything, but their prices don't go up.
And I presume farmers can't then recoup that cost by charging more for the products?
No, not very, very difficult to do that, and it always has been. But, and it's a 24/7 job. You've got to love it, and it's a way of life. And for me, I'm lucky because I'm retired now, leaving it to the sons. And so I can visit, but I'm not do too much work. Well, I don't do any work now.
I quite like the sound of that, not doing any work, but you still get up early in the morning, though. I'll give you that.
Never,
yeah.
You never stop.
No, absolutely. Right, well, I'm going to walk up the road and see who else I can find on this sunny morning in Romsey, Hampshire. But for now, back to you.
Well, thanks for that. Really appreciate that. Nice to see you around Romsey and meet you if you're there. Go out and we'll be cameras on the street.
We
easy
will.
to recognise.
Now on your doorstep. Look, stay with us. Lots more coming your way, including all the latest on the Chris Pincher allegations. Plus, we'll be live from the fuel price protests as demonstrators take to the road. See you in a sec. Looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK is looking blustery with frequent showers in the north, but drier and brighter across the south. Here's the details. Lunchtime across the southwest of England will be rather cloudy with a few showers around, especially across Cornwall and West Devon. Temperatures will be around 16 or 17 Celsius. Southeast England and East Anglia, however, will be drier, although here sunshine will be rather limited. Despite the cloud, temperatures will be around 20 Celsius. After a cloudy morning across Wales, come lunchtime it will be brightening up, although there may still be a few showers in the south. Skies will also be brightening up across parts of the Midlands. However, southeastern parts will remain rather cloudy throughout lunchtime. In the sunshine, though, it will be feeling rather warm. Northern England will have a rather blustery lunchtime with some showers, especially towards the west, and it'll feel rather cool in the breeze, but sheltered and in the sun, it'll feel fairly pleasant. Showers will also affect much of Scotland, with the heaviest and most frequent across the northern and western parts of the country. It'll also be rather windy, making it feel pretty cool there. And it'll also be pretty fresh across Northern Ireland, although those showers may start to ease a little as we'll move through lunchtime with some sunny spells developing. So it'll remain showery in the north during the rest of the day, but southern areas will turn drier and brighter. And that's how the weather's shaping up for the rest of the day.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know. The latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Former Conservative whip Chris Pincher faces questioning by the authorities as one of his accusers prepares to make a statement to the police.
Hello there, very good morning to you. Just after 7 o'clock, it's a Monday morning. It's no ordinary Monday morning. It's an Independence Day in America, 4th of July.
And you are watching and listening Breakfast on GB News, or listening to Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel Webster. And here's what's leading the news this morning.
A young Conservative activist who accused suspended MP Chris Pincher of groping him is now planning to make a statement to the police. It comes after 6 new allegations were made against the former Deputy Chief Whip over the weekend.
Donald Trump is reportedly preparing to launch an early bid for the 2024 US presidency. Sources close to the former president say he could announce as early as today during America's 4th of July celebrations.
A gunman has killed 3 people and wounded several others at a shopping mall in Copenhagen. A Harry Styles concert, which was due to take place nearby, was cancelled and fans asked to leave the area.
And the Queen's role has been formally rewritten for the first time in more than a decade to scale back her duties and allow Prince Charles to take on more. It comes after mobility issues forced her to pull out of a series of events earlier this year.
Now, you can join in any of the discussions we have. You know how to do that. You email us, you can tweet us as well. Details on the screen, and you've been quite busy this morning. We were talking about pubs on the decline, massive decline of pubs throughout the whole of the country. And those of you who have got in touch don't really care.
That being said, we should give a big shout out to all the many people that you've bumped into over the weekend.
Yes.
There isn't a place in the UK you haven't been this weekend.
Yes, I don't even drink and I'm in pubs all the time.
And instead of the usual Where's Ruthie wherever you go, it's now Where's Ruthie and...
Well, you're lying about that. You're building up your part there.
Oh,
you're building up your part. I only said that
give
to
with
make
one
you
hand
happy.
and you take with
I
the
only
other.
made
First
you-
thing you said to me this morning
Yeah,
when
but
you
I was
walked
lying.
into me.
I was lying. I was saying people asked about you, but they don't really.
Oh, well.
They do. They do. They say, do you know that postie girl that works with you
Oh,
in the
for
Royal Mail
goodness sake.
uniform? Filthy McNasties,
What did you
right?
have on your cereal this
Filthy
morning?
McNasties is a pub in Belfast, right? So we're talking about, can you beat names like that? Like, what does that even mean? Filthy McNasties, right?
Sounds awful.
Peveril of the Peak. I think that's what that says. In Manchester City Centre, Bernard tells me. So, you know, let us know. But why are pubs dying out? A lot of you think...
Why are the names dying out?
Yeah.
The cracking names. Apparently royal names are out. It's all about taps and bars and dirty onions. Anyway, get in touch. We love to hear and include you in our conversations. And also, really important to mention, a big thing that we're doing at the moment is looking out for a people's champion, because we've decided there is so much negativity day after day. We're reading miserable things and we want to shed some light on some of the positivity that we know is happening out and about in the community. Hang on, I'm bidding for People's Breakfast Champions. We want people to email us with the subject title, Breakfast People's Champion, as you were.
Pug Uglies in Belfast. Pug Uglies.
That makes you laugh, doesn't it?
Does make me laugh.
Where are you going tonight?
The
Pug
hound
Uglies?
and culture, the coach and horses or whatever. Why can't we have pubs like that? We have the Dirty Onion, the Cloth Ear, Pug Uglies.
The Jaggy Nettle.
The Jaggy Nettle. Let's see, the Tipsy Bird.
Yeah, so
That could be
send
named
in the
after you.
strange...
The Tipsy Bird.
Send in the strangest names of pubs, or the most abusive ones, as it seems to be your want, and get in touch.
Anyway. OK, let's get into the news. The former Conservative Deputy Chief Whip, his name is Chris Pincher, could face questioning by police as another groping allegation comes to light.
So the accusation comes from now a constituency member who says he was groped in a car by the Tamworth MP last year.
OK, well, in Westminster, there's anger within the Conservative Party over the handling of the allegations, with MPs putting pressure on the Prime Minister to make clear that Pincher should resign as a Member of Parliament.
Well, let's get more on all of this and speak to political correspondent for the Daily Express, Dan Falvey. Very good morning to you. Dan, always good to see you. Look, another day of terrible headlines frankly, for the Conservatives. This isn't really about Boris. It's about another Conservative male MP doing something, allegedly, that is, quite frankly, really shocking.
Yeah, and that's true. This is not just about Boris Johnson. It's about the whole party. And that's what's frustrating a lot of backbench MPs. They are looking at the party becoming engulfed in more and more scandals. They're looking at the opinion polls, which shows that Now, voters across the country think that this is the entire Conservative Party, and there's good, hard-working backbench MPs who are going, this isn't me, but what do I do? How can I sort this out? This is now tainting me and my chance of getting re-elected at the next election.
Well, look, the thing is, Pincher had a reputation. People knew about him. And the anger is, why are people like him with such reputations allowed to exist?
And that's why there are certain Conservative MPs, Caroline Noakes being one of them, who are saying we need to do more. We need to have zero tolerance on these sort of allegations, and that requires not just suspending people from the party, that requires going further. It requires setting out a clear code of conduct, and it means setting out that if any of these allegations come to light, they immediately lose the whip and an investigation immediately starts. Not, as we saw in this case, where the allegations came out and it took another 24 hours before action was taken to remove the whip.
Yeah, and look, let's be clear. I mean, this wasn't the first time allegations emerged. I mean, in 2017, there were allegations. Theresa May then dealt with the situation which didn't involve sacking him or getting rid of him. Is there an element, do you think, from the Prime Minister in his decision-making on how to handle this? Is he thinking about how to avoid another by-election as opposed to what is perhaps the morally right thing to do?
Well, the problem that Boris Johnson does have is, even if he wanted to take more action, it's actually impossible for him to force it. He is elected, Chris Pincher is elected by voters, and therefore he has a personal mandate. Boris Johnson can suspend the whip. He can suspend him as a Conservative member completely, which he's yet to do. He's so far only suspended from sitting with Conservative MPs in Parliament. He still pays to be a Conservative member. He could take action on that. But when it comes to forcing a by-election, he's actually powerless, and that is up to Chris Pincher himself.
Dan, can we talk about this national insurance cut? Is it a cut? Is it not a cut? I understand if you earn 35 grand a year or more, it'll certainly not be a cut for you. Is this just spin, or will people, why put it up to take it down again?
I think that's what an awful lot of people across the country think. People across the country want to lower taxes, but what they want to see is a real terms cut. They don't want a bit of magic where they see one hand, it goes up and then it comes back down for some people. They want to see more tax cuts. This is a good start, and a lot of Conservative MPs will say this is what corrects an error that we made earlier this year. But I think voters want more. People across the country don't want just national insurance to go down. They want to see cuts on fuel duty. They want to see cuts on VAT. This is a good start, and it will help the most vulnerable. But as you say, it won't help those who earn more than £35,000 a year. And quite frankly, this one tax cut is not enough to win over voters.
I'm always interested in the story itself, but also the way the story is delivered. And I found it interesting that not only was this a joint article between the Chancellor and the Prime Minister, a show of unity making this announcement, but also that they decided not to announce this on College Green or in front of the dispatch box, but in a Sunday newspaper. Is that sort of unusual?
Well, I think one of the things that Rishi Sunak has said is that, speaking to voters, he was surprised how many people across the country were unaware of this national insurance cut that's coming. And I think they felt very much the need to push that message out more, the need to talk to people who read the newspapers to say, look, this is what we're doing. Because I think they feel that they're putting in this work, and quite frankly, voters aren't recognising it at the moment.
Dan, we'll break up from British politics. We want to talk about American politics now, and we'll come back to you very, very shortly. And the reason we're doing that on this Independence Day, Donald Trump could announce his candidacy for the presidency again, this time running in 2024. Suggestions he could make that announcement as early as today.
Well, according to sources close to the former president, Trump's been eyeing up America's 4th of July celebrations, which would be very fitting, it's thought, launch for his latest bid and possible return to the White House. So let's speak to one of those sources close to the potential future president, Conservative political commentator Scotty Nell Hughes. What are you hearing?
Oh, good morning. And it's the 4th of July here, and you were talking about pub names. And I think the thought of Donald Trump announcing his presidency on Independence Day causes Republicans and Democrats to both want to go find their local pub and hope that it's open, because it could definitely cause a bit of anguish amongst both party members. Now, what you're talking about is this leaked rumor from a Kurt Bardella. He is a former GOP senior advisor to the Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Not somebody that I consider to be particularly close to President Trump, but more importantly, he is now an avid Democrat. So he put this kind of rumor out there, but the reality is there is no doubt that Donald Trump himself is definitely going to get in the race. The question is, does he get in before the November general election, which is expected to be a red flood, or does he do it after the general election? Either way, you know that Trump is definitely wanting a second chance to reclaim his Oval Office.
2 words, DeSantis.
Yes, exactly. The governor from Florida, that is probably the #1 contender that Trump would have to battle up against for the Republican nomination. You also have Governor Glenn Youngkin out of Virginia. He's very popular. The money people of the RNC definitely are eyeing him. They met with him just recently. The other issues, we know that Mitch McConnell and the establishment Republicans that are in the Senate right now, especially if they gain control, they don't necessarily want another Trump presidency. So they're going to be looking for somebody as well. But the reality of it is, like you said, DeSantis, who is the governor of Florida, very much a conservative, he would be the biggest contender. But as of now, he keeps saying that he would not run against Donald Trump. Would he run as vice president to Trump? That's another question. But a lot of people in America right now are looking at what the Democrats are doing with the January 6th committee, and they're going, Republicans especially, are going, thank you. Because it's very hard to talk to Trump, whether you're for him running for president or not. It's very hard right now to tell Trump, you know what, maybe you need to sit this one out. And the Democrats seem to be doing the Republicans' dirty work for them and possibly sending that message to Trump that it's not time for him in 2024. And Democrats don't realize that they're doing, some of those Republicans that don't want to see Trump running again, doing their dirty work for them.
We're hearing a lot of reports following the congressional hearings about Capitol Hill. And Scotty, are those hearings doing Trump any harm outside and indeed inside his party? Is he immune from harm on those, or are they affecting his reputation even more?
It depends on which route you want to look at it. On one hand, it's making him look like a victim, like he's targeted, something that he always said he was when he was president. And the more that they continue to kind of throw these easily discredited interviews out there where people go, wait a minute, the truth's not even being told there, makes him look like the victim. But on the other hand, for those who might already have indigestion in the Republican Party from the idea of Trump being president, who still have the battle scars, the battle wounds from when he was in office, it just reminds them of the type of battle that they went through getting him into office, while he was in office, and obviously still continuing to fight those battles. And they're tired. I'll be honest with you. The Republican Party, especially a lot of the Trump supporters, are tired. So if they have a option that offers the same sort of conservative agenda that Trump has to offer, but not as much of as someone that goes a little bit down, a little bit easier than Trump does to the soul, they're going to look to them real quickly.
Talking about tired, Joe Biden looks tired. Whether he is or whether he isn't, surely he wouldn't run again, would he?
Well, he keeps saying that he is. Obviously, he wants to make people look that he's very strong, that he's going to run again. But the reality of it is it's only 18 months into his presidency, and there's no one else the Democrats are talking about running for president. I mean, you hear different names being speculated. Republicans already have a laundry list of people that they feel should be qualified, could easily handily beat Joe Biden and the Democrats, mainly because of the type of agenda they've already put into place. So, yes, he looks very tired. He's not going to tell people he's not running again, but I think it's very, very doubtful. The question is, who do the Democrats have to replace him at this point? There's not many options. Kamala Harris herself continues to have international flub after flub. You've got Governor Newsom out of California. He seems to be kind of like their chosen one right now. I wouldn't necessarily, you look at his track record in California, it's an easy one to beat if you're a Republican running against him. There's not really many options. The Democrats are going to continue to look at Biden, hoping that maybe there'll be some sort of, Hail Mary he can throw that'll save our economy and save the entire Democratic Party come November.
When you think about the Trump presidency and you think about whatever your views of him, he certainly was a bit of a loose cannon. He did things his own way. He was his own man. I'm interested in your own views. If he was in power now, how alarming do you think the situation in Ukraine would be, given that nobody could really predict what President Trump's foreign policy would look like? I mean, there's always that fear, isn't there, that he would strong-arm Putin, that we'd be in a nuclear situation before you know it. I mean, is that that the sort of discussion that's being had in the States? You know, how would Trump be dealing with Putin in this situation, and how worried are people by that?
Well, the situation would have never happened because it didn't happen when it was under President Trump. There is no doubt about that. There's nothing that changed between Ukraine and Russia when Trump was president, and Trump and Ukraine and Russia as Biden is president. There was no change in dynamic. It was just the U.S. president and what that foreign policy was following the horrible Afghanistan withdrawal led by the United States. So what I think you would have never have seen yourself into this situation, you would have seen some sort of peaceful agreement between Russia and Ukraine, possibly never getting into this war, because there was never a war underneath Trump between Russia and Ukraine. That is, I think, where the difference would be. If you saw President Trump put back into office, and I pray if he is in 2024, that we're not still dealing with this conflict between Russia and Ukraine, that there is some sort of peace that comes to that region for the benefit of the people. I think that you're going to see a Trump return to an America first, because he's going to have, if he thought it was bad after 8 years with President Obama's agenda, President Biden's been able to unravel within the United States borders in 18 months. A lot of the Trump policies that have put us into the place we are today. So I think you will see a more domestic-focused president, regardless if it's Trump or any other Republican put in office, mainly out of necessity. Because if they don't, our country's there's no point of success right now coming from any part of the American agenda currently, thanks to the Biden administration.
Live from Nashville, Tennessee, you were listening and watching Scotty Nell Hughes, the political commentator. Happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day, Scotty Nell.
Well, I think we all get along now. That's all that matters. Never did I think I'd have to answer for Paul Revere. Thanks, forefathers.
Thank you very much indeed. Listening to all of that and what Scotty had to say. Dan Falvey, political correspondent for the Daily Express. Do you think Trump will run again?
I think it's very likely. I think we saw as soon as he lost the last election, those rumours began. And for the last, well, now nearly 2 years, that spectre has been hanging over America. What will Donald Trump do? It's meant that the Republican Party can't move on, the Democrats can't move on. Everyone is lingering on. What is this announcement going to be? Is he going to announce he's going to run? Is he going to finally say no? Everyone's on edge.
But Dan, how come reputationally these congressional hearings haven't finished him?
I think what we've seen is he has a very core, strong base of supporters. And I think what he did at the end of his presidency, when it came to claims of the election being stolen, claims which have been completely unfounded and there's no evidence to back it up, was resonated with those who really do support him and believe him. And they will stick with him no matter what.
Yeah.
The question is, those voters who voted for him first time round, but then moved over to Joe Biden, are they going to go back to backing Trump following what happened last time round?
Who knows?
It's hard to see.
We'll just see how it
Thanks,
plays
Dan.
out.
Really appreciate it. Dan's the political correspondent for the Daily Express. Thank you. Good day. Thank you.
OK, with the time 90 minutes past 7, let's bring you up to date on this morning's headlines. And 3 people have been killed and another 3 are in a critical condition in hospital after a shooting in Denmark. Footage shows people running from the Fields shopping centre in Copenhagen, where police arrested a 22-year-old suspect. A Harry Styles concert nearby was cancelled and fans told to leave the area.
Serious disruptions expected today. That's because of protests over high fuel prices. Demonstrators are expected to target motorways across the country, with warnings that the River Severn bridge crossings will be blocked.
A number of postal workers have been left with permanent and disabling injuries from dog attacks, with more than 1,600 incidents reported in the last year. An average of 32 attacks took place every week across the UK. That's according to the Royal Mail.
I do think people have a responsibility to control their animals.
Absolutely.
With delivery drivers.
And with children and whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You see the rise of these attacks and, essentially, I think dogs are much like your own kids in that you have to be responsible for their behaviour and you have to teach them and discipline them and not just indulge them. They need exercise, they need a firm hand. That's my view.
As long as they don't eat your hand.
Well, quite. Like
Which
your
is
poor
why, if I was a
brother.
postie, I would have a stun gun attached to me, I think, just for protection.
Yeah?
Well, you're not going to get a
What,
killer.
like a taser?
Yeah.
You'd be there with your...
Or like
tasing the
Star
dog.
Trek, phases on
Eamonn,
stun.
I'm sorry, every time you see a dog anywhere, you're like... you're not going to taser a dog.
If it was a mad killer dog...
Yeah, but I reckon you'd think you could tame it or something. You'd like
Well,
a
you
dog
wouldn't have much
whisperer.
chance. I mean, I go back to when I was 11 and, doing the newspaper run.
It gets younger and younger, this story. When I was 8 years old doing the paper.
But here's the question. I never did wear shorts. Why do posties wear shorts in December?
That's true.
and
My
January?
postie does wear shorts all the time.
Do you think it's like a fetish?
No, I think it's hot work. I think they're
In
exercising.
December?
Yes, they're bustling around, carrying heavy things.
Chafing could be a problem.
For goodness
but it
sake.
could.
It could,
mean,
but I
it
don't
could.
think that's probably their
So if you're
motivating
hot
factor.
and they want the right sort of ventilation.
1 minute, this is a postie outfit.
It is a
Now
postie
we're talking
outfit.
about posties, shorts, chafing.
It is a postie. You'd be...
I'd be perfect for the job.
Right, you would.
Are you going to tell the story about your brother again? I think it's a good story to relay.
Well,
Quite relevant.
If I was him, I'd be making more of it than he did.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
lost the end of his index.
He's a postie.
Finger, yeah, by putting it through the letterbox. I'd say I lost my hand. And you'd be dining out on that story, wouldn't you, in the pub? You'd be like Captain Hook.
Put it away.
Wouldn't he?
Stop it. But they didn't.
Some old growler at the other end of the letterbox.
I'm banning that word
You know?
this morning. But what I will say is it ended happily because they managed to put his finger on ice.
Yes, they did. They did.
Stitched it back on.
Yeah.
It's not funny.
We're not
but
sure
you
what
just
happened
sent
to
me
the
into
dog.
fits of giggles again.
That was it. Anyway, the sports stories with Bob Cout right after this. Don't go away.
Looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK is looking blustery with frequent showers in the north, but drier and brighter across the south. Here's the details. Lunchtime across the southwest of England will be rather cloudy with a few showers around, especially across Cornwall and West Devon. Temperatures will be around 16 or 17 Celsius. Southeast England and East Anglia, however, will be drier, although here sunshine will be rather limited. Despite the cloud, temperatures will be around 20 Celsius. After a cloudy morning across Wales, come lunchtime it will be brightening up, although there may still be a few showers in the south. Skies will also be brightening up across parts of the Midlands. However, southeastern parts will remain rather cloudy throughout lunchtime. In the sunshine, though, it will be feeling rather warm. Northern England will have a rather blustery lunchtime with some showers, especially towards the west, and it'll feel rather cool in the breeze, but sheltered and in the sun, it'll feel fairly pleasant. Showers will also affect much of Scotland, with the heaviest and most frequent across the northern and western parts of the country. It'll also be rather windy, making it feel pretty cool there. And it'll also be pretty fresh across Northern Ireland, although those showers may start to ease a little as we'll move through lunchtime with some sunny spells developing. So it'll remain showery in the north during the rest of the day, but southern areas will turn drier and brighter. And that's how the weather's shaping up for the rest of the day.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
We've got lots more coming away on the programme this morning. We're going to be live and on your doorstep in Romsey in Hampshire this morning. That's just before 8. Our reporter Jeff Moody there asking locals about the big stories which matter most to them.
OK. Also coming up, how much do you pay for your supermarket groceries, and particularly the branded ones? We're going to be conducting...
Eamonn's going to be doing a taste test.
I'm not tasting.
It's going to be
I don't take sauce.
tasting ketchup sauce on a spoon.
I don't take brown sauce, red sauce, any sauce. I just have food. But anyway, apparently
Eamonn's going to be taste testing.
Never, never, never.
I'll be taste testing at around 8:20. That's to see if there's any real difference between the own brand and the actual brand
when it
ones.
comes to sauciness.
Yeah.
And what else besides sauciness?
Oh,
what
don't
else
ask, I can't remember.
Beans?
Yes.
We do
Soup,
beans. I might
maybe.
have a bit of beans.
OK, you
Might
can have
do a
some
bit of
cold beans. Yeah. All right, perfect.
Cornflakes?
No, there's none of that.
None of that?
Well, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, get in touch. Let us know what you want us to talk about this morning. We're all over the place, aren't we? Having a good time.
I'm perfectly fine. I don't know what places you're visiting.
Well, you're just a little bit, chatty.
Were you drinking over the weekend?
Were you?
You know the devil's buttermilk does not cross my lips. You know that.
Oh, dear.
What?
The devil's buttermilk.
I phoned you twice last night and you didn't answer.
I was already in bed.
What, 5 o'clock?
I wish. No, I just thought this won't be a quick call, so I'll just ignore it.
That old bore's on. Anyway, GB News at gbnews.uk, or you can tweet at GB News. Well, did I tell you I was at the Grand Prix?
You did mention, yeah.
Did I mention that? I haven't been at Wimbledon yet.
No.
No, I've done Ascot, I've done the Grand Prix.
You haven't done Henley?
Haven't done Henley.
Oh.
Missed out so much.
Yeah.
Wouldn't mind sneaking in a wee Wimbledon.
Did you enjoy the F1?
Yes, it was a lovely day.
In spite of all the crashes?
Growling and noises and all sorts of... There was no... The roar of the engines.
Was it good?
And you've never... The thing about... I've got Paul Coyte here as well. The thing, Paul, is you just don't realise what 200 mile an hour looks like.
It's pretty much... That, isn't it? That's what it is. Did they give you ear protectors like they do with the kids?
No, but you do get a little radio that gives you the commentary.
Right.
Yeah.
But by the time the commentary's got to you, then the cars have gone anyway.
Yeah,
it's pretty fast.
It's how these guys do it. I mean, it is scary. So we look at the back pages, and this is how they shape up today. The Wimbledon, first of all, headline: Cam's the man. Cameron Norrie keeps the nation's hopes alive as the last Brit standing in the singles at Wimbledon. Guardian leads with Formula One's moment of horror. Absolutely. Now, I didn't see it. It happened on a part of the track that I couldn't see. But this is absolutely... This guy, Zhu Ganyu, terrifying crash. And Paul's going to talk about it shortly. Son also leading with the British Grand Prix. And then some football transfer news. Ronaldo and United set to hold crunch talks amid his transfer request on this one. Let's start with Zhu Ganyu. How the heck did he walk away from that?
It's unbelievable, isn't it? It was a collision with George Russell, and it's down to a thing called the halo. Now, the halo, which is a pretty new invention when it comes to racing cars and Formula One. It's been with F1 for a couple of years now, and this is this large... Well, basically, that's what it is. It just covers the head. Mm-hmm. We probably remember last year there was Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton when Verstappen's car went right up on the top. I don't know if you remember that, the Italian Grand Prix, landed on top pretty much of Lewis Hamilton's head. And it was the halo which managed to save him from that. And so already, I think it's probably fair to say, saved lives already.
I still don't really get what it is, sorry. So is it like a giant airbag?
No, it's
a hoop.
Yeah, it's like a big steel. It's almost like a cage, but it just goes above the head and over the top and pretty much protects the driver's head. So as we saw with the crash yesterday, as he turned, because it did spin. Look, there we are. If you look at that, see that strange T thing right on the front?
Yeah.
That's it. That's the halo, and they all have those. And early on, often people complain.
This guy rolls
look
so often.
Imagine being his wife or sister or mother. I mean, you'd have just thought that he'd had it. That's so frightening.
Definitely.
He didn't. But the thing is he walked away from it with not even a scratch.
I mean,
if you see the thing in real time and that car coming round and spinning over, I mean, everybody, you would just take a deep breath and think, this is really bad. But again, it's all down to the safety procedures. There we are. Look at that.
I can't even watch that.
Now, if you see
That's so
that he's upside down, if that halo wasn't there...
I mean, he shouldn't be alive. Yeah. But actually, no injuries. Like, surely he needs to be in hospital with concussion for weeks after that.
No, because it's managed to protect his head.
Wow.
So this is how important this invention is.
I agree with Isabel. I think
can't be right
it's
after
Austria
that.
next weekend. I mean, he
Can't be right.
but can't be right after that.
I don't think I'd be wanting to drive again if that happened to me, but that's it. They know the risks, and they're certainly nowhere near the risks that used to be in the old days of racing when, we'd be seeing 2 deaths sometimes a year.
Yeah.
And it was just, and if
or
you
vegetables
didn't try
left as a vegetable.
Really,
Worst case
really
scenario.
scary.
Quick
But
word
anyway,
about
he's
Wimbledon.
fine.
Sir Cliff Richard was out and about doing his thing.
What did you make on Cliff there? When Cliff came out, I was a bit worried because the whole idea, wasn't it, that it was for the 100th anniversary of Centre Court, and they had some legends all came out and some of the great winners of the past, and there was like a thunderclap and Cliff started singing Summer Holiday, and I know there was Pam Shriver was sort of clapping along, but it did seem to, I didn't think the crowd got behind it quite as much as maybe they could.
It's a bit of a tradition anyway, but
was
it didn't
nice.
do the trick for Heather Watson.
No, Heather Watson's out, but we do still have Cameron Norrie. Now, Cam, he's the British #1 and pretty much flies under the radar, I think, because he's very quiet. He goes about his business, no complaint. Probably the antithesis of Nick Kyrgios, and he's played terrifically well. And so he's through, and he's already won a couple of titles anyway. But now he's going to be playing tomorrow, unseeded David Goffin, who's Belgian, first Brit to make it to the quarterfinals since Joanna Konta in 2019, first male since Andy Murray in 2017. And there's no reason why. I mean, of course, I don't want to put the mockers on him. But
don't say it then.
He's doing very well, and there's no reason why he can't do a little bit better than maybe he is.
How serious is this
Fingers
Ronaldo transfer request at Man U?
It could be serious.
Oh, no.
It could be serious.
Only if he knows someone's coming in for him, though.
Well, that's a good point. You're not going to start putting these stories out unless there's someone that's actually interested. So the word is that Cristiano Ronaldo is not happy with how Manchester United are at the moment. We could have said that last year, but I think there was probably more hope at the start of last year, coming second, and then you've got Ollie there and bringing him in, and there were great hopes. Didn't work out the way that certainly he wanted it to. So it's just whether he's going to stick around. It doesn't really show a lot of love for the club, which he said that he had, whereas is he just thinking, I'm 37 years old, I want to go out and win something as if he hasn't won enough already. Where he goes, I don't know, and who actually takes him, and how much money is he going to cost? Manchester United don't want him to go, but with these days and player power, if he wants to go and he says he's determined to go, then it's always difficult to keep a player.
OK, Paul, well, we have to go as well. Thank you very much indeed, but please do stay with us. We're going to be talking to a Labour Cabinet Minister about Keir Starmer's new plan for Brexit. Labour want to own Brexit. And also we're going to be taking through the newspapers as well. All that to come after the break.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Welcome back. The time's 7:37. We're speaking now about the Labour leader Keir Starmer's keynote speech that he's planning to set out today, his party's 5-step plan to make Brexit work for Britain.
OK. He'll say that his plan will deliver on the opportunities Britain has and sort divisions out once and for all.
So for more on this, we can speak now to the Shadow Minister of State at the Cabinet Office, Baroness Jenny Chapman. A very good morning to you. So what is this speech going to suggest? What is Sir Keir Starmer's plan?
So what we're saying is that since we've left the European Union, the government has gone about it in a very a way that's about sowing division, making things harder, not easier. We think the problems that do exist, and we're not pretending they're not there, are resolvable. So take the issue around Northern Ireland, for instance. We think that by taking a mature, considered response rather than being provocative and trying your best to destroy any trust that remains, that we can resolve those issues. Once you've done that, then you're into the Horizon project and scientific collaboration, which is really important for universities and scientists in this country. And if you want to grow your economy in the UK, which we do, you have to sort these issues out first. So we're saying the government is making heavy weather of it. It doesn't have to be that way. There's another way of doing it. And actually the Labour Party would be much, much better placed at getting these issues resolved.
I really specifically want to ask you about that, because this really is an interesting point. So this is about the huge number of really, really top-of-their-game scientists in this country who are all qualified to be part of this project, the Horizon project. They get loads of funding from the EU, but they can only qualify for it if they move out of the UK and live within the European Union. So how are you going to solve it? You make it sound so easy.
Well, actually, that's not true, what you just said. You know, Horizon has been agreed. It's already been agreed that the UK scientists can be part of Horizon.
No, I'm not saying they can't be part of it. They can't access the funds.
Well, the problem now is that the EU, and we think wrongly, is saying that until we get the Northern Ireland Protocol issues resolved, that they are going to hold back on our membership of Horizon. Now, we don't agree with that. We think that it's much more important for scientists, not just here, but around the world and in the EU, if we can get this issue moved on. But we do have to recognise that the way the government is going about mishandling the issues in Northern Ireland is causing a breach of trust and issues, you know, not just with our European partners, but actually it's causing us difficulties in securing closer trade arrangements with the United States as well. So getting the Northern Ireland Protocol issues sorted out is the first thing you have to do if you want to not just get access to Horizon, but resolve many other issues as well, and actually start behaving like a country that people want to do business with.
But, Baroness, what I'm slightly confused about is that people or Europe can't do business with Keir Starmer, at least not for another couple of years or so. So what difference does it make as to what Keir Starmer thinks? I think the problem is, are you saying put us in power and we can make Brexit work, the Brexit that Boris Johnson negotiated, we can make Boris Johnson's Brexit work, or, which I can hear people shouting at the screens now thinking, it's just Starmer's way of weaseling his way back into the EU?
No. So I think it's really important that the Labour Party is clear about what we will do on the issue of Brexit and our relationship with the European Union, because voters will want to know. So we're laying that out today. And in answer specifically to your question, The Labour Party will not be seeking to rejoin the EU. There will not be a referendum on rejoining. We will not be rejoining the single market or the customs union. But the other thing we won't be doing is deliberately picking fights in order to resolve issues within our own party or sow division. We would be putting public interest before self-interest, unlike the way that Boris Johnson's going about it. It would be a very, very different approach. But it is important, Eamonn, you're right to challenge me on this, and it's really important that we answer it straightforwardly. This is not about rejoining the European Union.
That being said, that's the views of Sir Keir Starmer. Who knows if he'll still be in power when it comes to another election. Lots of rumours swirling over the weekend that Durham police have actually now issued him with the fine. The police saying they won't give a running commentary. Can you update us, please? Because he has committed to resigning if he's fined.
Yes. He would resign if he was fined, and he hasn't had a fine. I saw some of those rumours at the weekend. I mean, it was extraordinary some of it was, he's been fined and he's keeping it a secret. I mean, it's just nonsense. He hasn't had a fine, and we've got to let Durham police do their job.
OK.
Baroness, thank you very much for your time this morning. Baroness Jenny Chapman is a life peer. She serves in the Shadow Cabinet as the Shadow Minister of State at the Cabinet Office.
Time to go through your morning newspapers today. We're joined again by the Olympian Chris Akabusi and President of the Law Society, Stephanie Boyce. Welcome back to both of you. Chris, shall we start with death by welfare? This is a story inside the Mirror about government failures, as they put it, in relation to disability benefits.
Yeah, and apparently they've got a 30-year timeline that shows the toil of claimants' reforms and how it's affected the disability lobby constituents. This is the beginning of their Disability Week, and the lady called Rachel Charlotte Daly is an editor. She says, throughout this week, we aim to change your mind about how we all view disabled people. There are 40 million of us, and we're not all the same. If you take away anything from this week, I hope it will be that disabled people don't need pity or awe. We don't want sympathy, we want empathy. Well, I think we can all say amen to that. Of course, we want to be empathising with every United Kingdom, a great country, a great nation, as has been said, is not identified by its buildings, its architecture, its art. It's about how it takes care of its most vulnerable people. Now, DWP, I'm sure that when people go to work at DWP, they've got to balance the idea of taking care of the public purse and being good stewards of our spending with the rise and detra of ensuring that those most vulnerable don't fall between the cracks. So I'm sure the social workers and all the officers do hard work. But this story in the Mirror, it shows a litany of times where following protocols means that there is less than a sentient understanding of what people are going through. It's very hard to understand what people are going through if you're not walking in their shoes. I've got a relation who has fallen through this crack. The disability benefits, you've got incapacity benefit, employment support allowance, personal independence allowance. And once I had to go into his home, he'd not been seen for a while, and the police had to give me access, broke down the door. I won't talk about the state of the room. It wasn't very good. He himself wasn't there. He had checked himself in. But there was a letter that he had penned to his local DWP person saying, you don't understand me. How can you take away my benefits? And it was quite clear he was really, really distraught that he was going to lose his benefit. Yeah. So there is this challenge, and I do recognise that officers are doing their best, but there's a 30-year timeline of people, and there's some stories here of people who've taken their lives, who one guy, Airwall 57, starved to death after WP took away his ESA wrongly.
The Mirror are highlighting that throughout the whole week,
yes.
And they start that series today. Thank you, Chris, with that. Stephanie, it's a legal story that you have chosen, not surprisingly, front page of the Daily Mail. Police let 22,000 suspects roam free. So these are fugitives accused of murder, rape and violence. They don't have to go to court. They fail to attend court, but the police are too busy to arrest them.
Well, absolutely. So what the article goes on to say that Individuals are failing to appear in court, and through the paper's own investigation, at least 2 of those that the police have failed to locate have been found at home. But what the article does highlight is the state of our criminal justice system. And, of course, we, the Law Society, have long talked about the state of the criminal justice system and its failings. And this article, with some 22,000 suspects roaming free, absolutely highlights that greater investment is needed in our justice system, and the public also needs to be aware of what's going on. It's too late when you come to the justice system to start to educate yourself as to the current crisis within.
It's just where to start on that, isn't it? I mean, we've had all the talk about barristers and their pay. Then you have the issue with not having enough police officers. You have the issue of the backlog within the courts. It's a huge systemic problem, and it's certainly not going to go away overnight. Talking about things going away. Sniffing.
Great segue.
How is your sense of smell?
So we've been encouraged to go back to the old way of checking our food. We've got a Best Buy date and a sell-by date, and but in the United Kingdom, the average family wastes £800 worth of food a year that they just chuck out, and because of the labels. Now, I won't throw away anything. My family absolutely...
So you'll eat old stuff?
Oh, definitely.
Are you one of those people that will scrape the mould off a piece of bread when you find it at the end of a loaf?
Keep him for the...
That's a yes. That's a yes. You see?
No, I would never leave bread that long. Because, I mean, I never understand that. So with bread, for example, if you buy a whole loaf and you know your economy, you stick half of it and you stick it away in the freezer. Why would you have a... Yeah, definitely.
Good man.
Yeah, why would you do... So, but things like yoghurt. Now, I'm never in a month of Sundays am I going to throw away my yoghurt. There's a great spread, by the way, in here, showing about Sarah Ramsey's rainy experiment. But if the yoghurt's going, that's a little bit fruity.
Stephanie?
Do you eat it?
Yes! No, what do you put it in a sauce. You make a sauce out of it, a little biscuit.
Do you get poorly? Because that was the first question I asked.
I don't get anything.
Stomach of steel.
Yes, my constitution. Because I've been doing it ever since I've been on my jet, ever since, my wife and I went up ways. I'm throwing away nothing. And I trust my nose.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And then
And you have a stomach of steel, basically.
Well, yeah, but you put a little bit of wine, a little bit of yoghurt, you make a new sauce.
Most of our stomachs would probably survive it. It's just my mind.
Yes,
the moment I think there's anything dodgy, if there's any question that I need to sniff it, then it's out.
No!
Well, I tell you, I had a terrible situation on Saturday with sushi, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it was from M&S, and it was in a little plastic container. But there was no date on it. I was most concerned. I couldn't find anywhere. I put my glasses on, everything, and I couldn't say use by, sell by, anywhere on it. So I had to go. But I didn't enjoy it.
Oh, because you were thinking,
I was
is this
thinking all
clean
the time,
or not?
am I poisoning myself
Yeah.
with this?
Yeah, fish and chicken, I wouldn't,
You don't even have to do a sniff test.
No,
Fish is off. You
No,
can smell it a mile away.
Well, I couldn't really smell anything, but then I thought I could have had long COVID. I probably couldn't smell anything. But why wouldn't have had a date on it?
Well, I'm convinced that when I was a child, and I'm not that old, that actually the dates were there dates? And in fact...
No, there weren't.
No. How old are you? 60?
No.
Don't worry, he says the same to me. This is just his way of talking to women.
I think they only come in the 80s or something.
Yeah.
Dates.
Oh, well, I was just a mere young'un then.
20 by then.
Unbelievable. Don't worry.
You're going to the Express, page 24.
Yes.
There's more to teaching history than Hitler and Henry VIII.
Well, amen to that.
Well, what? I wish I had have been taught Hitler, Second World War. I yearned to be taught the Second World War. But
What were you taught
Irish
in
history.
Northern Ireland?
Well, Irish
potato
history.
famine.
We got, yes. Yes.
No, it's just all about potatoes in Northern Ireland. Sorry. No, it's very actually fine, the potato. I would love to learn about the potato famine, but all we learnt at school was Hitler and Henry VIII. And the wives.
Yeah. So what MP Alexander Stafford is saying exactly that is that students don't have the option to study anything pre-1066. And what he's saying, of course, is that there are lessons from the past to be learned and comparisons to be made, such as the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic with Black Death. But on a more serious side, certainly from my point of view, not only teaching more about history, but actually let's get law taught in schools, all schools, added to the national curriculum. Because what's the point of legal rights if you don't know what they are or you don't even know when they're being taken away?
Yeah, absolutely. Can't argue with that.
In the Times, we talked about the heatwave, or the impending heatwave, Chris, before. This is page 5. And pets, and keeping them warm.
Yeah, so potentially, if you live in a large house, you're wasting £240 a year, and a 3-bedroom semi, £170 a year, because 72% of pet owners on the Eon survey 2019 said they left the heating on for their pets. Now, I had three dogs, and when I left the house in the morning, they were outside of the house during the day.
Really?
And 100%.
Well, they're working dogs.
No,
So they've got fur, haven't they?
They've got fur. I mean, they're animals. They come in when I come in. Welcome me at the gate. In you come, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do in the house? And also, with this heat in your house business, now, there's a challenge because is there a balance to the re-energising of all the rooms when you turn them on vis-a-vis keeping a low level of heat on throughout the whole day? That's an equation I do not know at the moment in time. But no, look, the kitchen's going to get hot as soon as I start cooking. In the winter, I'm probably not going to... Excuse me. So I'm getting too excited. I'm probably not going to use the main living room. It's a kitchen. The hallway needs to be... So my hallway is always at an ambient temperature. So when I come in, I feel the difference from outside. But otherwise, the other rooms, wait till I go in. My bedroom, I don't heat my bedroom.
My downstairs loo, icebox. Never gets warm. It hurries people through. Completely dallying. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So this story is about people... and then it's also people leave on the radio. So when I was in Germany, my ex-wife, her mum had a parrot called Nora, and Nora would do the chimes of WDR, which is Westdeutsche Rundfunk, because they'd leave the radio on for Nora. Yeah, so
Nora could do that.
She could do it all. She could do it all because she knew. On the pips, she knew on the pips.
I love it.
Thank you. Well, we're on the pips now because it's time for On Your Doorstep.
Jeff Moody has the best gig today. He's in Romsey in Hampshire, a place I love very much, actually. Look, tell us about where you are, what you're up to, who you're speaking to.
Oh, well, if you love Romsey, you'll know the Plaza Theatre here. It's the home of the Romsey Amateur Operatic and Dramatic Society. This was always a cinema, and then it became a bingo hall in the 70s when people stopped going to see films. And the local Amdram group, Rayodds, bought this, converted it into a theatre, and that's what we see today. Let's see if anyone's around at this ridiculously early time in the morning. Very early for thespians to be up, isn't it? We found one. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
You're live on GB News, madam.
Goodness.
Are we allowed to come in and have a quick look around?
Yes, please, feel free.
Thank you. So, tell us your name, please.
I'm Jane Russell. I'm the estates manager at the building.
So that's why you're here so early in the morning?
Yes.
So, this is nice. It's a sort of Art Deco, isn't it?
Yes.
Very nice indeed. Takes a lot of upkeep.
Yes, it certainly does. It's a busy job. There are a lot of jobs to actually do in the theatre at all. We're all completely voluntary.
So what was it like then? What's it like with the cost of living crisis? Because the bills must be going up and up and up.
They most certainly are, yes. I mean, we've just had notification that our electricity, if I can say our standing charges for a day, are going from 57p up to nearly £3. And our unit costs have actually doubled, so we're having to be really, really careful with how we actually use electricity, just like, I guess, people are in their normal homes.
And I presume that's not a cost that you will then pass on to the consumer, so you're not putting up ticket prices?
No, well, we're hoping not to.
What's been the favourite show you've been involved with?
Oh, there have been so many. I think I've been involved with every show since I joined in 2012, apart from one. But I think probably the favourite show was one of the ones that I was in, which was Lilies on the Lands. And we actually performed that twice, once in 2013 and once in 2017.
OK, well, let's meet... hello, good morning. I'm a member of the public just sitting here casually. I presume you're setting up for the next show. What's going on here?
Our next production is Villette, and that's on next week, so, yeah.
we're just sorting that out now and getting everything ready.
So I presume during lockdown, nobody came to the theatre, obviously. And how was that for you guys, having your hobby taken away from you at that crucial time?
It was really bad. I mean, everybody struggled, you know, and we were just wanting to get back in here and get back on stage and get back performing, you know. So, yeah, it affected everybody's mental health, I think.
What does it do to you for your mental health to be performing in a show?
Well, really, to be performing for an audience is great fun to start with, and it's such a lovely social thing, and everyone gets on so well, and we have such a giggle. So, yeah, we really miss that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you're back again. There are plays galore. Very, very quickly, what's the next play to be on?
Villette.
Villette. Come and see Villette. It's at the Plaza Theatre in Romsey. Back to you guys.
Good stuff, Jeff. Thank you very much. Just to say, loads of emails coming in about dogs and posties. We've been talking about the number of attacks. Actually a real big problem for posties. Celia's got in touch, says all the dogs in our area love the postman because he brings them doggy treats. Maybe that's the way round it.
Hi, brain.
Philip says Isabel could deliver my mail any day. Thank you, Philip. That's after Eamonn was saying I look like a postie. And this guy...
Attractive posties.
TM Scott's got in touch saying, you must wish sometimes that Eamonn would stick his tongue through a letterbox. And I say,
I have an answer
no
for
comment.
that, but not on air. Very good. Thank you very much indeed. Please do stay with us because more on the allegations for the MP.
Yeah.
And the Prime Minister now facing a backlash in the Cabinet over this man called Pincher. OK? Plus, how much extra do branded groceries cost?
Eamonn's doing a taste test. So that'll be worth staying tuned for.
No.
Yeah, you are.
Chris Akabus.
Oh, Chris is into it.
Because
Okay.
he'll eat anything.
OK, we're getting saucy in a little bit. See you then.
Okay.
Looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK's looking blustery with frequent showers in the north, but drier and brighter across the south. Here's the details. Lunchtime across the southwest of England will be rather cloudy with a few showers around, especially across Cornwall and West Devon. Temperatures will be around 16 or 17 Celsius. Southeast England and East Anglia, however, will be drier, although here sunshine will be rather limited. Despite the cloud, temperatures will be around 20 Celsius. After a cloudy morning across Wales, come lunchtime it will be brightening up, although there may still be a few showers in the south. Skies will also be brightening up across parts of the Midlands. However, southeastern parts will remain rather cloudy throughout lunchtime. In the sunshine, though, it will be feeling rather warm. Northern England will have a rather blustery lunchtime with some showers, especially towards the west, and it'll feel rather cool in the breeze, but sheltered, and in the sun, it'll feel fairly pleasant. Showers will also affect much of Scotland, with the heaviest and most frequent across the northern and western parts of the country. It'll also be rather windy, making it feel pretty cool there. And it'll also be pretty fresh across Northern Ireland, although those showers may start to ease a little as we'll move through lunchtime with some sunny spells developing. So it'll remain showery in the north during the rest of the day, but southern areas will turn drier and brighter. And that's how the weather's shaping up for the rest of the day.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV. On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Former Conservative whip Chris Pincher faces questioning by the authorities as one of his accusers prepares to make a statement to the police.
A very good morning. It's just after 8 o'clock on Monday, the 4th of July. You're watching and listening to Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel Webster.
Here's what's leading the news this morning. A young Conservative activist who accused suspended Tory MP Chris Pincher of groping him is now planning to make a statement to the police.
It comes after 6 new allegations were made against the former Deputy Chief Whip over the weekend.
Donald Trump is reportedly preparing to launch an early bid for the 2024 US presidency. Sources close to the former president say he could announce as early as today, this being America's 4th of July celebrations.
A gunman has killed 3 people and wounded several others at a shopping mall in Copenhagen. A Harry Styles concert, which was due to take place nearby, was cancelled and fans asked to leave the police. Danish police say there's no indication that this was a terror attack.
And the Queen's role has been formally rewritten for the first time in more than 10 years to scale back her duties and allow Prince Charles to take on more. It comes after mobility issues forced her to pull out of a series of events earlier this year.
And remember, you can join in any of our discussions by emailing gbviews@gbnews.uk, or you can tweet us at gbnews.
And we're on the lookout for People's Champion, which we'll be announcing this week. If you know someone special who deserves recognition, a bit of a shout out, nominate them, tell us what they do, tell us what makes them special. You can email us with the subject title Breakfast People's Champion and then tell us the story.
So, leading our news this morning, the former Conservative Deputy Chief Whip Chris Pincher could face questioning by police as another groping allegation comes to light.
Now, this accusation comes from a constituency member who says he was groped in a car by the Tamworth MP last year.
Well, in Westminster, there is growing anger within the Tory party over the handling of the allegations, with some MPs putting pressure on the Prime Minister to make clear that Pincher should resign as a Member of Parliament.
OK, let's talk to our political correspondent Tom Harwood for this one. And today we see in the newspaper there's a bit of fallout, collateral damage on this. Telegraph headline, for instance, PM facing cabinet backlash over Pincher.
I think there's a general sense that the government was a bit slow to act when this story broke on Thursday evening. It wasn't until later on the Friday that Pincher was actually suspended from the party, losing the whip while this investigation goes on. What the government say about this is that they don't act on sort of rumour, they act on hard evidence, and it wasn't until a formal complaint was made that they then acted. But it does raise the question. Of course, they had heard the rumour. Of course, there had been certain stories floating around Westminster earlier. Would they not act upon those? And that's a big question that's being asked of judgment within Number 10. Right?
Yeah, and look, that was on the Friday night when the whip was withdrawn. When he stood down as Deputy Chief Whip. But then more allegations have come out over the weekend, and now this suggestion that the police might be getting involved. Does that change the dial on this? I mean, the pressure isn't just surely from within the Conservative Party, but it has to be coming from the police, the authorities?
Well, certainly there'll be an enormous amount of pressure, and indeed the pressure is being put on by the Labour Party as well, who want more to be done here. Of course, there now will be clearly separate investigations, not only from the Independent Parliamentary Complaints and Grievance Scheme, but also potentially now from the police as well. I think the big thing about this, though, is that this is process. This might take some time, and it's unlikely that Chris Pincher will stand down as an MP until the conclusion of this process. Let's not forget that unlike some other cases that have taken place in the last few years in Parliament, Pincher strenuously denies some of the more lurid accusations
He can deny all he
against
wants.
him.
He's had a reputation. He can't deny that. And he had a reputation not only under Boris Johnson, but Theresa May and David Cameron.
He certainly did. He had been investigated once before, although it must be said in 2017 when he was investigated, he was found innocent. And so that's what the government say as to why they reappointed him, as to why he went back into the whip's office, because that investigation didn't turn out to find him guilty. There are now so many more, however, that we shouldn't prejudge the outcome of any of these. And it does seem that the pressure is now piling on. More people are coming forward about historic allegations as well. It seems that this will be a protected process and potentially one that will be pretty tricky for Chris Pincher.
And for the Prime Minister, surely. I mean, Dominic Cummings saying that he famously said he was Pincher by name, Pincher by nature. And interesting to note that no one at Number 10 has denied those comments. So it seems to be accepted that that was said by the Prime Minister. Lots of questions about his judgment in all of this. And also, I suppose, this growing sense that here we are, another day, another scandal, Pestminster. But it seems to be male Conservative MPs who, week after week, are bringing Boris Johnson's premiership and the party, and I suppose Westminster, into disrepute, aren't they?
And this is one of the problems of a weakened premiership, because, of course, Chris Pincher was brought in as Deputy Chief Whip after helping to run a relatively successful shadow whipping operation, shoring up the Prime Minister's leadership several months ago, sort of working on behalf of the Prime Minister with a number of other people who then got brought into the formal operation. And I suppose there's questions to be asked if were Pincher not to have done this sort of shadow work on behalf of the Prime Minister, ensuring he was staying in place, would he then have been rewarded with a post of government, or would that not have happened? So to some extent, the rewards for loyalty here may be outweighing certain points of judgment, which might not happen were the Prime Minister in a stronger position.
OK, Tom, we'll leave it there. Thank you for that political roundup at home. We now go to America. It's reported there on this Independence Day that Donald Trump is rumoured to be announcing his candidacy for the 2024 US election. That could happen today.
Yes, sources say the former president's eager to announce his intentions much sooner, but he'll only be able to do so on his own social network, Trust Social, as of course he's banned from Twitter, Facebook and Instagram.
OK, let's now speak to Sarah Elliott. Sarah, good morning to you. Sarah is a spokesperson for Republicans Overseas UK. What do you think, Sarah? Do you think he'll run?
I think it's looking more and more that way. There have been rumors now building for months that he wants to capitalize on the President Biden's low approval ratings, which I might add are at 38% right now, one of the lowest in history, and a disapproval over 57%. And every time you run a hypothetical poll of President Trump versus President Biden, Trump wins by 5 or 6 points. And there was another poll that just came out this weekend that has Trump ahead by 5 points if he was to run against Biden today. So I think he definitely would love to redo the 2020 election. He would love to take out Joe Biden. I think it's just too tempting for him. And he also wants to get ahead of his rivals. He has a really big rival in his home state, Governor Ron DeSantis, who's had a very successful run during COVID. And he's been a real defender of families against corporate wokeism. So Donald Trump wants to get ahead of the pack, and he has the most loyal supporters in all the party. I would still say he's probably the front runner in the Republican Party for the base, but maybe not for the entire party. He's still very controversial. And Republican Party is growing in strength across the country. We've had over 1 million new voters sign up to become Republican in the past year, over 43 states. And not all of them supported Trump in the past. So it's quite divided.
Within the party, then, some disillusionment with Trump. Not obviously his hardcore will always support him, but these January the 6th hearings have to be problematic for the Republicans because they are hugely serious allegations being made. Trump coming across as really trying to get control of the steering wheel, trying to throttle a Secret Service operative, trying to get rid of metal detectors to allow people with weapons to come through to his speech, endorsing violence against the vice president. I mean, these are not small matters.
No, but the January 6th hearing is a partisan witch hunt viewed by Republicans. They weren't allowed to choose which Republican congressional members were on the panel. And of course, January 6th was awful. No denying that at all. And I withdrew my support for President Trump over that. But it doesn't seem to be treating the event fairly or in perspective, and the Democrats are trying to make as much political hay of it as they can. So I would say for Republicans, we're largely ignoring those hearings.
Yeah, how come the congressional hearings and the revelations there haven't damaged him?
Because I think it's all baked in the cake, and it's already damaged him to the extent that it can. I mean, people like myself who did support the president and then withdrew it after January 6th, that's already been done and happened. This is kind of just kind of rehashing the past. There are no new revelations really that could, I think, alter the opinions of those diehard supporters who saw President Trump as their pit bull, their defender, their arch defender. And if anything, these hearings are making it sound like he wanted to be there and wanted to be with his base and his real arch defenders even more so. So, it's just one of the, it's Washington theater. It's, it's politics at its partisan finest.
Life. It's incredibly important. It's not a reality TV show, and we'll watch with bated breath to see how it all pans out. Thank you so much for joining us, Sarah Elliott, spokeswoman for the Republicans Overseas UK. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's bring you up to date news-wise. Here's what's happening. 3 people have been killed, another 3 are in critical condition in hospital after a shooting in Denmark. Footage shows people running from the Fields shopping centre in Copenhagen, where police arrested a 22-year-old suspect. A Harry Styles concert nearby was cancelled and fans told to leave the area. Police say there is no indication that this is being treated as a terror attack.
Serious disruptions expected today amid protests over high fuel prices. Demonstrators are driving slowly on motorways with warnings the River Severn bridge crossings are going to be blocked.
A number of postal workers have been left with permanent and disabling injuries from dog attacks, with more than 1,600 incidents reported in the past year. An average of 32 attacks take place every week across the UK, according to the Royal Mail. Very good to see you. Very good to have you on board, on radio and on TV. This is Eamonn and Isabel with Breakfast on GB News. We're now going to the pub. Well, that is if there are any left.
Yeah, they're in decline. There are now fewer pubs in England and Wales than ever on record, according to new research. The total number dropped below 40,000 this year. That's a fall of more than 7,000 since a decade ago, which is frankly really, really sad.
I'm looking and being told we've got names of pubs, but I can't see them here. Do you?
I don't have a list of pubs
now.
No,
It would be
at the
nice.
minute.
Apparently we do have one. They will wing them away by carrier pigeon to us shortly. In the meantime, we're going to the landlady at the Queen Charlotte pub in Windsor, and she's Jess Hunter. And Jess, your situation there, I suppose pubs and people who frequent them and customers, they fall into two categories. I mean, we had people getting in touch today and they hadn't got a very high opinion of pubs at all. A lot of those folks had drinking problems themselves, but also they worry about the reputation of pubs and who they attract nowadays. And they say that a lot of them are to do with drugs dealing and whatever that goes on in pubs. I mean,
noisy, parking on double yellows, a nightmare for residents, costs £5 for a pint. In the old days, now £8. It's a bit of, a few people sort of being a bit negative about the local pub. So fly the flag for the local pub.
Well, I think it's the perfect community base. I mean, I think if a pub is done well, it's where you would take the family. It's not just for sort of everyone to go and get incredibly drunk. Like, it is where you'd go with the family for a Sunday lunch, and a lot cheaper than a lot of sort of fancier restaurants on the high street in general. And it is where you go to meet your friends, whether that's, you know, male, female, not necessarily particularly like hugely young groups. I think it's a massive community base. You can have people raising events in pubs, raising money for charity, having art events, all sorts. It's a great place to have a base for lots of different activities.
What about the names, the way the names are changing? Because we were talking earlier about how names like yours, the royal sort of titles, things which have arms in it, all going out of fashion, and it's all about the taps or the, what was the other one? The bars.
It's about, Sian tells me it's about the soggy bottom, or a pub called the Corner Cupboard. There's a lot of ducks out there as well. There's the dirty duck and there's the mucky duck, and I live near to a dirty duck. I have to say as well, the battered kipper, the dirty habit. There's a lot of dirt going on as well. So that sort of indicates, as Isabel was saying there, the traditional names that are often associated with royalty, and you being where you are in Windsor, I suppose you don't really have much choice.
No, well, we're very, you know, you can imagine that we're very sort of royal around here. But I think you find them everywhere. Like, you still see lots of sort of traditional, the old Red Lions, and a lot of the sort of more classic names, Green Oaks. You definitely get a lot of them, I think, around. You know, whenever sort of I drive around the country, you're seeing all these sort of traditional names. But it's about keeping that community spirit alive. I don't think it has to be a sort of old-fashioned boozer that people think of. It can be very much the hub of the community. And yeah, I mean, traditional pub names should still be going, and hopefully people are keeping them.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about the old-fashioned boozer. Trends are changing, aren't they? I mean, the people who are still boozers, we're told anyway, the older generation, people perhaps might be doing that at home more now, but the younger generation, we hear, are all, you know, going clean. They're all turning away from alcohol. And is that a challenge for the business model of the British pub?
Yeah, I definitely think it is. I've certainly noticed that over the last there's definitely a huge shift in what we're selling in the last 5 years, considering that our range of sort of soft drinks or non-alcoholic beers, non-alcoholic gins, that has definitely grown, which I haven't seen, you know, in my career before. So there definitely is, you know, sort of an extensive range of the soft options. Which is obviously a struggle as well for publicans because you're not going to be making as much money on them. So we do need people coming in, either more drinking the soft drinks, or we just need people coming in and sort of drinking, you know, a lovely gin and tonic perhaps. You know, it doesn't have to be the sort of many, many pints of ales and stumbling out the pub.
But Jess, tell people, you know, just give us an insight into how difficult it is to maintain a pub as a business. I mean, how long have you been doing it, and what sort of skills do you need, you know, to be a good landlady?
No, it is hard. I've been in the pub trade for roughly 12 years now, sort of running pubs and restaurants, coming back to pubs because I found it a lot more sociable. You know, you really get to know your locals and you get to know your community, and that's why I love pubs so much. But it really is hard. It's very long days, and it, you know, sort of very physical work. And when you're trying to build relationships with your community, you know, you get very emotionally attached and invested. But it is hard, you know, especially with everything going on in the economy. Prices are only going up and up for us to sort of buy things in. And there's only, you know, we can't put our prices up too much, otherwise nobody would come in. So we're definitely noticing, you know, we have to put our prices up a little bit, but it's more the sort of the profits that's going down for us rather than...
Do you know, Jess, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, you know, you take pubs away from villages and you take community away from high streets and towns and whatever, because the banks close, the post offices are closing, churches close. Where do people meet up now? I mean, it's a serious thing for sociability.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't have the answer to that, because I think that very much the pub is sort of at the centre of that. And if those are closing, I'm seeing that here, that, as you just said, the post office are closing, the banks, all of the high street banks are basically closing. So where is it that people meet? And if it's not the pub where you could get a cup of tea or a coffee or a soft drink or a pint or a glass of wine, then where are you going to meet up? Because, I'm sorry, but where is the other option? There's got to be somewhere where people can meet and be sociable and sit at the bar and have a chat to people. There has to be somewhere to meet.
It's interesting you mentioned coffee. I have to say, where I live, that is where people go. I mean, there's just been this week a new coffee shop open. There's sort of a 400-metre stretch of shops. There's 3 coffee shops there now, and they're always busy. But maybe people are switching the pint for the £4 latte or whatever it might be. Look, Jess Hunter, you fly the flag for the Queen Charlotte and the pub industry indeed. Really good to get your thoughts this morning. Thank you.
We'll make call in and see you.
Yeah. We were just saying we might call in and see you. I don't think you heard us there.
Please
but we might pop to Windsor at some point.
Please do. You'll find us right next to the castle.
Perfect.
The trouble is I rarely go out in public, because when I do, people keep mistaking me for George Clooney, and I just think, oh, this gets so weird.
And it's not like you to ever indulge in the devil's buttermilk.
Not that I would. But, yeah, OK. But, in Ireland, traditionally, pubs were grocery stores as well.
Well, that happened a lot during lockdown. Our local pub.
They sell bacon and things.
Yeah, they sold groceries because everyone was locked down and they needed to diversify. Yeah.
That's where you would still get examples of that in rural Ireland, where they would have a section for groceries or the post office or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
And then the other bit, you'll have a pint while you're here.
Perfect,
that's the way it is.
Love Ireland.
After the break, we're going to be finding out how much money you can actually save on groceries by switching to own brand.
Yeah, but the real question, of course, is always, is there a difference in taste? Are you downgrading in the quality of it if you pay less? We're going to be finding out after this.
Looking ahead to today's weather,
Right, I need to do a wee.
Blustery with frequent showers in the north, but drier and brighter across the south. Here's the details. Lunchtime across the southwest of England will be rather cloudy, with a few showers around, especially across Cornwall and West Devon. Temperatures will be around 16 or 17 Celsius. Southeast England and East Anglia, however, will be drier, although here sunshine will be rather limited. Despite the cloud, temperatures will be around 20 Celsius. After a cloudy morning across Wales, come lunchtime it'll be brightening up, although there may still be a few showers in the south. Skies will also be brightening up across parts of the Midlands. However, southeastern parts will remain rather cloudy throughout lunchtime. In the sunshine, though, it will be feeling rather warm. Northern England will have a rather blustery lunchtime with some showers, especially towards the west, and it'll feel rather cool in the breeze, but sheltered and in the sun, it'll feel fairly pleasant. Showers will also affect much of Scotland, with the heaviest and most frequent across the northern and western parts of the country. It'll also be rather windy, making it feel pretty cool there. And it'll also be pretty fresh across Northern Ireland, although those showers may start to ease a little as we'll move through lunchtime with some sunny spells developing. So it'll remain showery in the north during the rest of the day, but southern areas will turn drier and brighter. And that's how the weather's shaping up for the rest of the day.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know. The latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Welcome back. It's 8:25. Still to come on our programme this morning as the government announced a new drive to reduce the cost of childcare for parents. We'll be speaking to Minister for Children, Will Quince, just before 9.
Also coming up, we're going to be looking at the Copenhagen situation, the shooting that took place and had echoes of what went on in the Manchester Arena, just because it was just a mile away from a Harry Styles concert. So, former counter-terrorism specialist with his take on that.
And remember, you can join in any of our discussions by emailing gbviews@gbnews.uk, or you can tweet us at gbnews.
OK, food prices continue to rise, and that keeps your food shopping bills really a cause for concern. And keeping them within budget, a major concern for all of you. People are having to cut back on some of their favourite household items and buy groceries for less in a bid to save a few quid.
Well, let's speak to consumer expert Kate Hardcastle now. Joins us in the studio with some top tips. And Chris Akabusi, we should say as well, in the shot as well, who's going to be our taste testing guru this morning, because neither Eamonn or I fancied a spoonful of ketchup at 27 minutes past 8.
He can basically eat anything. He never looks at sell-by dates or use-by or anything. So we reckon, Kate, that he could tell the difference between own brand and supermarket brands and whatever.
Let's see, shall we?
Yeah, well, let's see, because this is an obvious way, if it's true that you're not downgrading in quality or taste by going for the own branded stuff as opposed to the designer, as it were. If it's as good, then it's a great way to save money, surely. So should we put it to the test?
Well, look, I've been shopping. I've been out there in the supermarket shopping because we talk a lot about this switch from brand to own brand, and last week's news was sensational. The very idea that we've got this war going on between our biggest food retailer and one of our biggest grocery brands, where we've seen products removed from the shelf, is massive. And these are staples for a lot of people in the pantry. And we know that a lot of people, sometimes when fresh food becomes expensive, you do turn to the cupboard, don't you, and start getting the tins out. But if the tins are going to be 4 or 5 times as much, it's a big, significant cost. So how perhaps, instead of just talking about the switch, can we actually see if real life it could work?
Well, let's talk about the price differentials first of all. We've got some soup on the table. Chris, if you could do some magic pointing, that would be super handy. We're looking at tomato soups there. We've got a cream of chicken. We've got a
Heinz brand.
Yeah, Heinz brand. So just talk us through the price differentials there then.
Well, what you tend to find now in the big supermarkets is they don't just have one own brand, they have got a couple. So we call that like good, better, best. And often you will see that there's actually quite the difference, even in the own brand. So don't just check out that supermarket brand. For instance, in Tesco's, they've got a brand called Stockwell's, which you'll be able to see here, which is cheaper than their own brand, about half the price again. So it's really worth having a look at the alternatives. Big tip here as well, guys, shop high and shop low. Yesterday, in every supermarket I went to, all the brands were at the middle height, and the cheaper ones were either right at the top or right at the bottom. So make sure you're looking
high
out
or
for
low,
them.
yeah.
High or low, and also the price per gram or the price per measurement, rather than just the price of the tin. Actually, even in some of these products, there's a slight bit of difference. See on the ketchups here, 460 grams to 540 grams. So make sure you are correct in terms of what you're comparing like for like. So yeah, it was nearly double on the cost of soup there, Isabel.
Wow.
Between own brand and brand.
Right, so 60 pence for a Waitrose own.
I've tasted them all at home because I'm not a scaredy cat like you two. And I was very happy. And I did it on the kids as well. And we fell foul on the ketchup. But do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to dilute it. I'm going to 50-50 it.
What do you
until
mean?
they get used to the new taste.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm going to be on own brand and they'll never know.
Oh, but
they don't watch this right now. They don't watch this right now. They're at school. I've checked.
Okay.
Fantastic. OK, what about the price of a tin of beans? Because that's a really good, cheap way to feed a family of an evening. Bit of beans on toast, bit of cheese if you're feeling fruity. But how much is it going to set you back at the different supermarkets? What, you don't like cheese on your beans?
I do, yeah, but the fruitiness.
No, I didn't mean fruity. I just meant if you're being fancy. Yeah.
22 pence for the cheapest tin of beans that I could find. That was price matched with Aldi at Stockwell's as well. And the most expensive was £1.20 for that Heinz brand when you can find it, because a lot
So
of
that's a
stores
quid difference
it's
there.
nearly a
But
quid,
again, the
98p.
taste. I'm sorry, I thought we were going to be tasting all these. I don't know what we're talking about them. We're not tasting them. But so what on earth does 22 pence beans taste like?
Well, when we did it last night, we could actually see the difference, if we're being honest, between... It was actually the sort of thickness of the sauce, if I'm being honest.
yeah.
And I think we could definitely taste the difference. But the question was, for a quid difference, could we afford to be that concerned about it? And we came to the conclusion that beans on toast...
He's going in.
Oh, he's going in. Good boy.
There you go.
This is essential Waitrose baked beans you've got.
So this essential Waitrose here was...
oh, my gosh.
45 pence. 45 pence to £1.20.
Would have been better if I'd done it without seeing it, but there you go.
Well, we've got one of those. I think they're a bit concerned what a major celebrity like you would be prepared to eat in a morning, Chris. I think that's it.
You thought that was yummy?
Yummy is over the top, but it's edible.
You can just see the difference a little bit, can't you?
Yeah.
But
No,
we
you
thought beans on toast.
Does it compare to army rations?
Oh, in the army, yeah, you just get stuck in.
Do you think, when you had army rations, do you think you were getting own
There was
brands, or do you
definitely
think you were getting big brands?
Pardon me?
When you were
the army goes to war on its stomach, you get the best food possible.
Best food?
Yeah,
best
the
food?
best food. Yeah, yeah.
But Chris, so you were saying that the Heinz brand was
It's
actually sweeter. So my top tip would be, if you've got the cheap brand, pop in some Worcestershire sauce when you're cooking it, maybe chop in some onions or, I don't know, even some cheese, as I say, to just make it a bit more interesting. If you've gone for the cheaper one, you can bring it to life a bit
Depends
somehow.
what you're having it with.
Yeah.
What we felt. If it was a side on a big, full English breakfast, did it matter as much? Whereas if it was beans on toast, we could understand.
Yeah.
There'd be some people that were really particular about it. But again, if it's for the kids, can you start to blend it so they get used to one
this
flavour,
one
get
here,
off the sweetness?
If he was eating like baked potato, beans with some cheese, you could do that.
And that is a big saving at a quid.
Massive at a quid, But this was the big one, the ketchup.
OK.
5 times the difference between the quite posh supermarket own brand Waitrose, that certainly wasn't the cheapest own brand, and the Heinz. £3.50 versus 70 pence in store yesterday.
And did it taste different?
Well, I'm going to leave this bit up to Chris. Are you ready, Chris?
Yes, ma'am.
You need to rinse your...
Exactly. Where's my water? Where's the palate? There's a bit of wine. Let's go.
Right, are we ready?
Yeah.
So here we go. This is A.
For a minute, I thought you were going to feed me there.
I'm not doing that. 10 years I've known you. I've eaten you.
OK, here we go.
That was sample A.
Yeah, for the record, we're not telling him which one's which till he gives us his conclusions.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that one, that's for sure. I've got a funny feeling, I think that's the best one. But
OK. Go on, Mr. Hotshot, we'll soon find out.
Yeah.
So exhibit A, you think...
Some A is Heinz, yeah, and this one, I don't know what it is.
OK. A is Waitrose.
Oh, my God! He's died! He's died! You killed me! You killed me!
Just killed a legend. Oh, my God.
Think of how much money you're going to save.
Oh, yeah, love you.
Oh, my goodness. So you like the 70 pence brand, this one.
Yeah.
Over and above your staple, which everyone would assume is kind of like, when you think of quintessential ketchup, you think of the Heinz one, and that's £3.50.
One of them had one of them has got a lot of vinegar in it. One has got more vinegar than the other. I don't know which one. The one I had last. I don't know if it's a combination of both,
but you like the cheap one.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, it's 5 times the amount, isn't it? So I'm guess even if you think you have to stay loyal to this brand, just give it a go.
Is there any truth, do you think, in the idea, and this could just be purely based on all the hype, if you're going to go own brand, go Waitrose, because it's like, you know...
Well, shall I tell you a difference to make on that? The own brand at Waitrose was 70 pence. The cheapest ketchup I could find was this one here. Again, this Stockwell's Tesco's own brand at 52 pence, and that was price matched to Aldi as well. So, that's 20p difference, isn't it? Well, just under 20p difference. but 5 times the amount, you can knock yourself
But
out
I'm
with
just
a
saying
waitress.
on taste. You just imagine that if you're getting the budget one, waitress would probably nail it. Is that just my own... I don't know. That's just my own prejudice.
But no,
It's been proven with Chris, hasn't it?
We've already tried it. We're going in for a 52p one now.
Hang on, we're going in.
Just for Isabel's complete journalistic authority on this, which I believe, yes.
It's ketchup. You get away with it.
Well, there we go. That's
Right,
the
well
review we
done.
have. I'm sure they'll put that on the packaging. Just ketchup, we get away with it.
If I had life to live over again, I would use the cheapest ketchup. Or no, actually, it doesn't matter. I'd use any of the ketchups because I'd save the money on the food because my children never were able to taste what food was on the plate. Because
So it's just ketchup?
Just ketchup, mounds of ketchup, you know.
That's what we were saying last night about blending it till they get rid of... We felt there was a sweetness to it for them, and we thought, right, let's actually move it across gently and keep the packaging so there's...
Because there's calories in ketchup
I think
as well.
it's the aftertaste, though. The aftertaste of that one, you can see it's a little
Yeah,
bit...
you're getting a bit...
Do you remember green ketchup?
I do.
Yeah.
That was a thing.
That
And
was
you
a
still have it in the
collector's
States.
item. Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Anyway,
Okay. Well,
it's
thank
like
you,
it wasn't here this morning.
Kate, and thank you to our ordinary viewer off the street who came in to taste test for us this morning. Very good.
He's not
Very
going
good.
anywhere, though. He's staying, hopefully not poisoned, and is able to take us through the papers, which you're going to be doing
Budget
next
brand.
in a
Budget
moment, and
brand.
he'll be joined.
So the message is really you don't have to fear budget brands.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Right.
All in.
Okay, Kate.
Good stuff,
Thank you.
Kate. Thank
very much indeed. So Chris will be back doing the papers with Stephanie Boyce right after this.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
22 minutes now before 9 o'clock. Good morning. You're listening and watching Breakfast on GB News with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel Webster.
At the Times 8:38, we're going to bring you up to date on the latest headlines this hour, and the Prime Minister's facing calls to explain what he knew about allegations of inappropriate behaviour involving the MP Chris Pincher before giving him a job. Boris Johnson is alleged to have called him Pincher by name, Pincher by nature, before making him Deputy Chief Whip of the Conservative Party.
Serious disruption expected on the roads today. This is because of protests over high fuel prices. Demonstrators are driving slowly on motorways. That's all we need, isn't it? With warnings that the River Severn bridge crossings are going to be blocked.
Just one British singles player remains in Wimbledon as week 2 of the tennis tournament gets underway today. All Britain's hopes now rest on Cameron Norrie, who faces Belgium's #1 David Goffin tomorrow.
Now he's picked himself off the floor. Olympic Pusaka here to go through the newspapers with the president of the Law Society, Stephanie Boyce. Very good to see you both.
Thank you.
Stephanie, let's start with you. We've seen enough of Chris for a few minutes. Let's start with the ladies. Should we start with this story about Pride? Of course, it was Pride in London this weekend. 1.5 million celebrating in the city this weekend.
Well, absolutely. What I love about this article is the colour, the vibrance of the colours. But, you know, 1.5 million people marching in the streets of London to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the first Pride March in London. And along with activists, politicians and celebrities were the heads of the legal professional bodies, including myself. So it was just great to see the supporters out there, the colours, the noise, the smells, everything. And of course, this goes on to talk about that, you know, whilst some rights have been achieved for colleagues from the LGBT plus community, there is a lot more to be done to ensure that they have equality, parity.
There's some lovely stories that come out of that as well. One of my erstwhile colleagues, both as an Olympian and as a soldier, Dame Kelly Holmes, felt able to at last to claim herself publicly and come out as being gay. And I think she was the leading voice with this gay pride march. And, you know, it's sad that we're still talking about these sort of things, that there is a desire, a need to still have to out yourself, if that's the right word. But I know for her, it's been a real weight off her shoulders, you know, being Dame Kelly Holmes, being a soldier and an athlete, and finally she's got peace.
Well, what I think is amazing, Stephanie, you're saying so much more needs to be done. That's the 50th anniversary march. What must it have been like 50 years ago to actually stand up and say, we're going to put a parade together?
Well, absolutely. If you go back in history, much of this derived from the riots, the Stonewall riots. You know, if my recollection is correct, from the streets of New York. So the fact is, and of course viewers will let us know if I'm incorrect about that, but the fact is that we still have, and we are still hearing much around homophobia, transphobia, biphobia. You know, people should be able to be themselves and bring their true, authentic selves to work, to the workplace, you know, to life, without being discriminated against for that.
OK. Right.
Chris, workforce dropout town. A town that's the capital of dropping out. Oh dear, what a claim to fame that is.
Yeah, it's really... So when you think... I mean, certainly of a person age, when I think of Blackpool, I think of the tower, I think of the lights, I think of the postcards, I think of the beach, I think of the donkeys, I think of fun. We meet, you know, people from London meeting people from Scotland, all right? But Blackpool has become the capital's workforce dropout. 25% of eligible people are unemployed or not working in Blackpool. And 3/4 of those people, that 25%, are not even looking for work. So that amounts to... So 20,000 people out of work, 15,000 not looking for it. And they say basically it's down to poverty, mental and physical disabilities. And I was really, really shocked when I read in this article about life expectancy. Because generally, in the general population, life expectancy is 81 years now, which is phenomenal, all right? But in Blackpool, if you're a male, it's 53.7 years.
Gosh.
Can it really...
That's stark.
That is just amazing. You know, so social deprivation in this town of Blackpool, I mean, I'm not sure if people in Blackpool will be happy that it's been highlighted and what we can do about it. One of the ideas is, because we lost a lot of people through the pandemic who don't want to go back to work. So one of the lessons is don't let people leave work, because once they leave work, they get used to not working and making their life as it is. But therefore, the wager, the falsium pack is you could die when you're 53.
Yeah.
That's just stark.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say, and it's unacceptable.
Well, look, if people are watching from Blackpool, get in touch with us. What's your experience of the seaside town? Are you one of those people struggling to find a job, or, you know, worried about your life expectancy?
There is an irony
we want to hear your stories.
There is a dichotomy that Blackpool could be the richest place in Europe, I mean, if it was allowed to frack. I mean, it's sitting there on all those reserves. There's gas and oil reserves. I understand not everybody wants that, but do you think that's what the town needs? Is that the reinvention of Blackpool? Let us know what you think.
Stephanie, let's turn our attention to the taxi of mum and dad. This is a nightmare because obviously we've seen the rise in the cost of fuel and parents are literally burning through the cash to take their precious darlings here, there and everywhere.
Well, absolutely. The Sun reports that parents spend nearly £33,000 on fuel ferrying their kids. A study found by the time the children reach the age of 16, parents have spent just under £33,000. And a quarter of mums and dads who were polled said that they are going to cut back on paid-for after-school clubs due to the cost of living crisis, cut down on using the car and opt for cycling with their kids. And, of course, as we think about the cost of living crisis, but also in our minds, we should be thinking about the climate crisis as well, and how cutting down on ferrying children around and only doing trips that are necessary may...
Stephanie, you don't know the half of it, and I'm just... this is what happens. I'm not making a judgment on this. When I was a kid at school, you joined all your sports teams and whatever, and you went there and you got on the school bus or whatever it happened to be, and you were back again. Now we would have had Junior saying he doesn't want to go on the school bus, he wants to be ferried separately, of which his mother would agree, right? And I don't know if you're nodding as if you would agree and you would
I caught the train from age 11 and then I got the school bus when
Would you make your two do the same?
Don't know, pass. At the moment, I walk them to school, or my lovely nanny does of a morning.
The thing is, they're in far too many activities and things after school, and it's just ridiculous. My son was a hockey fanatic, right? He was playing hockey all the time. Now, if he had done the same thing in a school in Northern Ireland, he'd have travelled maximum 30 miles somewhere, right, on the school bus. But if you're in the county of Surrey, it's like 1,000,000 miles wide, you know? It's like... And I genuinely used to say to him, I haven't got time to do all this. I don't mind. I'll come and support you at all the big things. No, it's absolutely true. But you can't be there for every single match.
No, but not to be... No judgment or anything.
Yeah.
However, you are an avid football fan. You travel a lot for that. And yet, dear old Junior can't go around playing his sport that he loves.
Let's get it into... you know, Manchester United are in the FA Cup semi-final as opposed to him playing in the 7th hockey match that week. But, you know, I'm just saying, I do think there's an incredible overindulgence by a lot of parents, and kids expect... And when you give them everything they expect to be in every society, everything going, and you just can't do it all. I think people have just got to learn you can't do it all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a shame if these extracurricular things suffer as a result of this cost of living crisis. But I think you're absolutely right. We do wrap them up in cotton wool, don't we?
Yeah, but the alternative is if they stay at home, they're going to be on their gadgets.
But they're not at home. I mean, they've got so much... I don't know about you. When I was at secondary school, I was at grammar school, I had 9 subjects a day, 8 homeworks a night, only because one of those subjects was a double period. So I don't know. I know you're an academic. You know, study, work. How the hell do they have time to do anything else?
Well, I think there's another message here. Bring back green spaces so children can get out and play.
Yeah. Oh, well, absolutely. We should not be allowed to build housing developments without green spaces incorporated.
Or school playing fields, which have all been
shops.
sold off. And that's, you know, that's the heartbreak. My little ones are at a primary school where it's all tarmacked. There's no green space. Oh, wow. None at all. Not a single corner of grass.
Oh, that's difficult. That's difficult, yeah.
Right, anything to cheer us up?
Sorry. Oh, Sue
fax
Barker.
machines.
OK, we'll come to that in a minute.
Fax machines. Stephanie, old tech, fax machines send young office workers into meltdown. So there still are fax machines out there?
Still fax machines, still photocopiers, and according to the Times newspaper, what they're saying is Generation Z employees, those aged between 18 to 24, are suffering burnout because they're struggling to work with old technology. And that's versus the baby boomers, those born between 1945 and 1965, who have been able to help Generation Z interact or operate the faxes, the photocopiers. But, of course, when we turn to smart technology, it's the other way around.
Of course.
Oh, yeah,
I used to get, when I worked at GMTV, they used to fax notes in the script and whatever every night. Honestly, it was like 36 pages of
Really?
fax. But they weren't separate. They were all in the one loop.
Yeah.
They didn't even slice it. So just went on. This just took over your whole home, this thing.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
My mum worked from home, and I remember when it was the same phone line, so if a fax came, we picked up the phone.
Yes.
It would be like, quick, put the phone run to the fax machine, press the button. Sorry, Mum, I picked up the phone. It was drama, high drama, because if you weren't quick enough, the fax went away.
Oh dear,
Those were the days.
So funny. It just shows you now that means, Isabel, that you yourself are getting older now because you're now talking about stuff that Generation Z hasn't got a clue about.
Exactly. I'm one of the oldies.
You're getting old.
I'm one of the oldies.
Well, Sue Barker, the sports presenter's taking a curtain call then.
Yeah, I find it so sad.
A picture of her on the front of
the
Mail. I don't know if you can see that on 6.
And
she's having a little cry there.
Nothing can prepare you for this moment. I mean, Sue's been a fantastic servant to tennis, both as a world-class player and then as a commentator. Great on sports programmes. This was her final curtain call. And I can imagine what this is like for her. She would have got herself prepared.
It couldn't be her last programme. She's another week of Wimbledon.
No, Wimbledon. Yeah, but
no, there's another week of Wimbledon to do. But this was the Legends call out, wasn't it? 100 Legends or something.
Okay, thank you for that.
Isn't it her last hosting of?
But anyway, the point being that while she was there, Mike and Rose said that how much they're going to miss her. The crowd erupted with empathy and love, and she burst into tears.
Yeah.
And all of the calm, professional attitude cannot. When that moment hits you, it just absolutely hits you. There's a song, "Hit Me With My Rhythm Stick." Well, she got hit with that. She got hit with the rhythm stick.
It just makes me love her more. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, she is synonymous with Wimbledon, and I don't really see how she's replaceable. I mean, who's replacing her?
She replaced me at Queen's Tennis.
Wow.
I used to present the Queen's Club tennis tournament.
What do you know about tennis?
So I presented
Your
that
house,
for the BBC.
Sue Barker, Eamonn Holmes. That was a tough decision. I love you lots, though. Oh no, he's angry. He's angry.
You've done it there. You've done it.
So that
was a touche for you having to go at her lovely dress.
There you go.
I also presented the World Darts, the World Bowls.
Oh.
Yes, I did everything except football, the one thing I wanted. But anyway, you know, Sue is a class act.
Yes,
She's a
absolutely.
class act.
Absolutely.
Oh.
You know, but
she's had a lot to take on because she's also had to relinquish question of sport in the past year as well.
But this is what I'm saying. So slowly but surely, a death by 1,000 cuts because you know, I'm still working, you're still working.
How old is Sue Barker?
She's 60.
65.
Oh, she's really young.
No, I think she's in her mid-60s.
She's
the thing is, we are all defined by what we do. So we are that.
Sue's 66. My gosh.
66.
She's 66.
Oh, she's still young.
No, she's still young. But she's older than me, and I didn't think I'd ever say that. But she's she's a class act. And I've got no desire to retire. I'm 63. I've got no desire to retire. Why should she? It's tough.
Nor should you.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, but if you work in broadcasting, it's often decided for you.
That's
the
the toughie.
I'm not saying that's Sue's case, but I'm saying it is often decided. It's not what you want to do, it's what others
decide to do.
Decide to do.
A new broom sweeps clean, yes? Someone comes in and says, OK, I'm going to change around a bit.
Good. OK, guys, thanks very much indeed. Very entertaining.
Chris Akabusi, Stephanie Boyce. Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I think we'll take a break and we're going to be back up.
No, we're not, actually. We've got a government minister standing by in the wings, wishful thinking, perhaps, but we're going to move on because the government has announced plans today to improve the cost choice and availability, the cost, choice and availability of childcare across the country, because we know this is a huge problem for lots of young families.
OK, let's hear what the proposals are going to be, and this is from Will Quince. He is the Minister for Children. As I understand it, Mr Quince, it's changing staff-to-child ratios for children, 2-year-olds, and it gets very complicated. It takes 4 people to look after 2-year-olds, is that right? And then
1 adult to 4 2-year-olds, and they're going to change it to 1 adult to 5 2-year-olds.
OK, right. Tell us more, Minister.
Morning, Eamonn. Yeah, it is a little complicated. It's quite a broad package of measures that we're announcing today. The first, you're right, is about 2 consultations, one on ratio reform. So in effect, moving to the Scottish model for 2-year-olds of 1 to 4 to 1 to 5. The other is a consultation on fairer funding, an extra £10 million for maintained nursery schools. And then also a big boost around childminders, because we want to see more childminders in the market, which represents the most affordable and flexible kind of childcare, often £1 an hour per child cheaper than group or nursery quality-based settings, and then finally making sure that the several £1,000s which families could be eligible for, be it on the government entitlements through the Department for Education or tax-free childcare or indeed the universal credit childcare offer, that people are taking up that eligibility and making sure that they get those thousands of pounds that they could well be entitled to.
OK, so let's assume then that parents and indeed the industry itself approve this through your consultation. That's not a guarantee, because I know Liz Truss tried to make the same sort of changes to ratios a few years ago and it was widely poo-pooed at the time. But assuming that were to go ahead, what guarantee can you give then that these providers of childcare will pass on that saving to the families? Because they obviously won't have to employ as many people, but how can you ensure that the hard-working families see the benefit of that?
That's right. So firstly, what we're proposing is very, very different to what Liz Truss proposed just a handful of years ago. This is actually a relatively minor change, just moving to the model they have in Scotland, which is 1 to 5 instead of 1 to 4. And in truth, I can't guarantee that providers will pass any savings on. It is up to individual providers and settings, over 70% of whom are private here in England, to do what they do. And ultimately, you know, that the ratios they're not a target or a goal. They are a legal maximum or limit, and it is for the individual settings and providers to staff safely and ensuring that they have high quality based on their individual settings. So this is about giving them flexibility, and it's not just about cost, it's also about ensuring that, you know, when a parent turns up and there aren't enough staff because of sickness or because of illness or because of training or lunch breaks and other things, that settings have that availability and flexibility and autonomy to make a decision about what's best in terms of staffing their individual setting that day.
Speaking very quickly there, Minister, just want to slow you up there. Why do this if the providers aren't guaranteed to pass on the savings? Is this to make I was always under the impression this was to help working parents save money, but from what I'm gathering, listening to you, this is more about the providers saving money.
Well, ultimately it could, because providers could pass on that funding. And look, ratios is just one part of a much broader package of reforms. The big one today, which I'm really keen to push, is that there are millions of pounds sitting there that parents aren't currently claiming that they're entitled to. So, for example, tax-free childcare. We know 1.3 million families are eligible. Only 300,000 families currently take that up. Universal credit. Up to 85% of your childcare costs covered, and we know currently only 12 or 13% of people take that up. You know, in these cases, they are several £1,000s per year which families aren't taking up, which they're eligible for. Likewise, the 2-year-old disadvantage offer, worth several £1,000s per year, 72% take up. That's not bad, but we need to go further.
Let's talk about Chris Pincher by name, Pincher by nature, as the Prime Minister describes him. He's disgraced himself, according to the allegations. But how much is the Prime Minister dragged down in all of this? Questions about his judgment today.
Well, the allegations are shocking and appalling, and I understand they're being disputed and due process has to now follow. But I asked a very specific question. I anticipated you asking about this last night of Number 10 and again this morning. And, you know, I asked very clearly and firmly, and I've been given a categorical assurance that the Prime Minister wasn't aware of any specific allegation or complaint regarding the Deputy Chief Whip before he was appointed. And let's not forget, you know, the previous allegations were from... Well, look, you're asking me to comment on speculation and rumour. I think that's a comment I understand made by Dominic Cummings, an individual that I don't give a huge amount of credibility to. Well, look, if I had £1 for every rumour or gossip spreading around Westminster, you've both been around the scene for long enough, I'd be a very wealthy man. No professional organisation can base any decision or action based on rumour. You have to base it on complaint. And that's why it's so important that we listen to the victims and we ensure that we create an environment where people can come forward and make complaints, and then due process investigations and disciplinary action can follow.
Resigned then in February when Pincher was appointed as Chief Whip, Deputy Chief Whip.
Sorry, I missed your question there.
My question was, why did Craig Whitaker resign from the Whip's office when Chris Pincher was promoted in February if there weren't rumours circulating about the reputation of somebody within the party being promoted?
Well, I don't know the reason. If you look at Craig Whittaker's social media, I understand that he said he resigned for health reasons at the time. So I don't know the answer to that. You know, all I do know is that every minister has to go through a PET test, which is propriety and ethics, by a senior civil service cabinet office member. Sorry. And let's not also forget that Chris Pincher has been a government minister since 2017 consistently. He was appointed and then promoted by Theresa May. There were previous allegations in 2017 of which he was cleared. All I can say to you is, having spoken with Number 10, my understanding is that the Prime Minister was not aware of any specific allegation or complaint made against the former Deputy Chief Whip. But I have to say also, having heard about the testimony and what's now coming out in the papers over the past few days, I can't believe that anybody, let alone the Prime Minister, in the knowledge of that information, would have appointed Chris Pincher to government, let alone to the position of Deputy Chief Whip.
Mr. Lovely though it is to talk to you, the Daily Telegraph today are saying that you're one of the more junior ministers that has been wheeled out, and people like you are very angry at being wheeled out because you know you're going to face these questions all to do with Mr. Pincher today, whilst the other head honchos, the big beasts, are coming up with other reasons not to be in front of camera today.
Well, Eamonn, I was booked in 4 days ago to talk about childcare in early years and the announcement we're making today. But, you know, if you're asking me if I'm angry, of course I'm angry. I'm shocked and appalled at the allegations that have come out. And I think they do a huge disservice to the many hundreds of members of Parliament and the support staff that go to work every day, working day in, day out to try and improve the lives of their constituents and people up and down this country. The allegations of this nature, which, you know, over the past few months and years have been made against members of Parliament from different political parties, of course erode trust and confidence in our politics. And that's why it's so important that we together collectively call out this atrocious and appalling behaviour wherever we see it, and we create an environment where people feel safe and able to come forward and make complaints, so appropriate action and disciplinary action and investigations can follow.
Will, did you know of Pincher's reputation?
So I've deliberately, over the past 7 years in Parliament, tried to stay away from gossip and rumour and speculation, which you'll know is rife and always has been.
So you have nothing to do.
What we've got to do is Eamonn, is ensure that people feel safe and able to come forward. And I think if you look at some of the allegations that have been made, be they from parliamentary staffers or indeed from members of Parliament who have been victims, this is what this is really about. We've got to make sure that we create a safe environment for them to come forward and make complaints where they're not going to be splashed across the media, where they're not going to be splashed all over social media, that they feel that they can have their confidentiality and anonymity protected to be able to make those complaints. And whether it's in Parliament or in schools or in professional environments up and down the country, people have to feel able to report and challenge inappropriate behaviour, so due process and investigations and then disciplinary action can follow.
OK, Minister, thank you very much indeed. You were listening and watching. Will Quince there, who's the Minister for Children, live from Westminster. Thanks for your time this morning. The government today announcing ambitious new plans to improve cost, choice and availability of childcare. What do you think about all of this one? Is it benefiting you as a parent, or is it just benefiting providers? Are you worried about the safety issue, the staff to child ratio involved in all of this? It is a big thing, you know, leaving your child off at nursery for the first time.
Especially if they're not happy when they leave them there. You know, it's a big thing. But yeah, let us know your thoughts. We're going to take a quick break, and after that, we're talking about all the big issues of the day.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, mate. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
The former Conservative whip Chris Pincher faces questioning by the authorities as one of his accusers prepares to make a statement to the police.
Hello there, very good to see you. 9:05 is the time. Thanks for your company on this American Independence Day, Monday the 4th of July. Breakfast in GB News with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel Webster, and leading for us on this half hour.
A young Conservative activist who accused suspended Tory MP Chris Pincher of groping him is now planning to make a statement to the police. It comes after 6 new allegations were made against the former Deputy Chief Whip over the weekend.
Donald Trump is reportedly preparing to launch an early bid for the 2024 US presidency. Sources close to the former president says he could announce as early as today during the 4th of July celebrations.
A gunman has killed 3 people and wounded several others at a shopping mall in Copenhagen. A Harry Styles concert, which was due to take place nearby, was cancelled and fans asked to leave the area. Danish police say there's no indication that this was a terror attack.
And the Queen's role has been formally rewritten for the first time in more than a decade to scale back her duties and allow Prince Charles to take on more. It comes after mobility issues forced her to pull out of a series of events earlier this year. So those are our news headlines today. Thank you very much indeed. If you want to take part in any of the discussions and have your say, as you have been doing today. Pubs, for instance, we've been talking about. Debbie says, I was away for a couple of days in a Fife village, 2 cups of coffee, two scones, 1 pint of lager and a glass of wine. We treated ourselves to fish and chips. It was 90 quid. Well, you say that, but you know, wine. What can I say? What can I say? I think
you
the
could
argument
eat all of that
here,
at home for half. Well,
yes, but she's not at home. She's in Scotland, isn't she? So the point is that you either enjoy the ambience or you won't. But people are saying that pubs have become too pricey.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
Mary's got
bistro pubs, you see. That's what going on.
Gastro pub.
It's a bistro.
I know, but I like eating at the pub. Anyway, lots of views on lots of topics. Dog bites. Julie says it's not just posties that dogs are biting.
That's
My
true.
husband's a driver for a builder's merchant. He's been bitten on at least 3 occasions. It's awful.
Yeah, awful. Keep your dogs in check, OK? You can email us gbviews@gbnews.uk, or you can tweet GB News.
And importantly, we are on the lookout for a people's champion. We're going to announce the first ones this week. We're all about trying to find some positivity and spread some cheer in a world which is dominated by some fairly negative news. So send us an email with the subject title, Breakfast People's Champion.
Now, I was talking to Isabel the other day, and she was recommending a company called Killing Kittens to me. So she was, now you just look it up, you can Google there as to what they do. But anyway...
You're the one who is familiar with Killing Kittens.
I am familiar. Killing Kittens, rather than me go into all of this, the lady who is the CEO and founder of Killing Kittens is going to tell us what they do, and then we're going to talk about why they're in the news today. So what does Killing Kittens do, Emma?
Other than killing kittens.
So I'm explaining it, not you.
Yeah.
So it's been going 17 years, and it was started initially as a safe space for women to explore their sexuality and not be judged, sort of online community and offline parties. And it's grown into a big sex tech business, sort of Bumble meets Facebook meets WhatsApp. So you've got the chat app, the dating side of it. and the social network community side of it, with the crazy parties on top, hence the sex party title.
You would see yourself as quite feminist in all of this.
Yeah, so the whole thing and the whole ethos behind it is for women to be in control, and they're leading the charge. They make the first moves. It's all about what women want, and actually sort of just, a bit of equity, not just equality, but equity.
Right, and so the very fact that this has been really successful goes to show that there was huge demand out there for what you're providing. But you've been in the news, haven't you? Because during the pandemic, like many people in hospitality, host parties, whatever it might be, needed a bit of help from the government, from this Futures Fund. And people are surprised, perhaps a few years on from the pandemic, to learn that Killing Kittens is also partly now owned by the taxpayer.
Yes, so that's the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, we were just another business. And actually all the other avenues that most companies could get, the CBILS, the sort of bounce back loans we couldn't get. And then they brought out the Future Fund, which is sort of you had to raise the money. And then the government would match what you raised. And then when the next time you go and do a big financial raise, they become investor, stakeholder in the business, which is what we've just done.
You see, it's fascinating. I know you, and I'll come to tell everyone how I know you before all of this, but before we talk about all this. But you see, your attitude, when you talk about this, you're very clear about what your company is, what it does, what it's about. It is a business that makes you money. You've got a model for your business. You've got an ethos for your business. So therefore, to you, it is no surprise that your business should be helped out during the pandemic. However, because it involves, what can we say, sex parties. Adult stuff. There can be a lot of eyebrows raised and people outraged that why is the public purse paying for all this rumpy bumpy?
Yeah, but I mean, what I say on that, and I think that's another thing that we've always tried to do, and one thing that fires me to keep charging, is the normalising the conversation around sex, because at the end of the day, our sexuality and sex is at the core of every human being on the planet and drives us, and we're animals, but it's so taboo, and it's billions are put into mental health, well-being, physical well-being, but what about sexual well-being when it's...
Now, I do have to say, obviously, I'm Irish Catholic. I do not have any normalisation around sex whatsoever, but I was filming a documentary with my wife, it has to be said.
Yeah, please stress that.
And we attended one of Emma's events. We were thrown out before the event actually started.
To your huge relief.
No, to Ruth. No, I said to Ruth, we should really stay and journalistically report, see what happens here.
But Ruth gets to make the first move.
Ruth said, get out now, get out, right. So we went out. But it was fascinating because we spent 3 or 4 hours with you and seeing how everything was set up and what went on. But this is the point. It is, Emma, you approach this very unemotionally. And I think a lot of the people there that night did exactly the same. They were confident with their own sexuality, or they knew what their situation was. And in an awful lot of cases we spoke to, the marriage they felt was flailing, or there wasn't enough spice in it. So, and it was, I remember distinctly, it was women on the night who were saying, well, I said to my husband, we're going to try this out. Because we need something. If we don't do this, then it's over type thing. The women were very definitely in control.
Saving marriages.
Yeah, it does that. And actually, that's another thing that sort of is not what you think it is women's desire drops much quicker than men's desire. You think in society, in the way sort of the women at home and men cheating, that it's, that actually it's the men whose desire drops, but actually naturally as animals, it's like the science of sexuality, it's women's desire that drops really, really quickly.
You've captured the imagination of the press, haven't you? Because you went to school with the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton.
There's always there, pictures. Right? Yes.
There's lots of pictures of you with Kate Middleton, or the Duchess, as she's formerly known, but also because you're a female in a sort of taboo area. Do you think there is a lot of sexism then, the way that you're sort of portrayed in the media? And I ask you this because people coming out saying, why is the taxpayer involved in this? Actually, the taxpayers more than had their money paid back, because you've been valued at 15 million now. Taxpayers got a 1.5% stake in that. You've already paid back your future fund.
70%, right?
So do you think you get a bit of a bad press?
We do, but I mean, it's been sort of 17 years of playing with fire, I call it, and you know sort of the nature. I'm not stupid. I know the nature of the business and the fact that I'm a blonde who went to private school. Is sort of, but like last week. So I think what stung a bit is a lot of people were like, it's just because she's a female founder. linked to the royals and it's sex. And you go, no, the amount of hoops we as a business had to jump through to get that future fund, and we had to raise 170 grand ourselves in the middle of a pandemic. We had to have done financial raises in the years before up to a certain length and be worth a certain amount. So there was a lot of hoops.
Well, three dozen of the 1,190 companies who accepted support from the Future Fund have now gone into liquidation, potentially costing the taxpayer 40 million. But as you say, your company has had that more than paid back.
Yeah, we're sort of like the pin-up for the Future Fund of doing exactly what the Future Fund was meant to do, and hopefully we'll make more money for the government and the taxpayers mainly, because who wants to make money for the government right now?
Well, that's an interesting political comment I can't resist asking you about. So why do you say that? Because obviously you benefited from the support from the Chancellor, just not very enamoured with what's going on in Westminster.
Yeah, I just think there's a whole load of entitled behaviour that is enough now, basically. Just get some more women in there.
Can't disagree with that. Can't disagree with that.
But I suppose if people are going to disagree with you, Emma, I would imagine it will be on a moral issue. People will look at you and condemn you from that point of view. She could criticise the government, she took their money, and also what's she encouraging going on there? What are you encouraging? What would you say you are encouraging behind those closed doors?
Well, the one thing and what we've seen in the last 2 years is actually loads of people have signed up to be members. Our membership's gone through the roof, and a lot of them have said they would never have done it before. It was for the first time they were locked in with their partners, having to have conversations, actually having to look at each other rather than be ships in the night, sort of, and go, well, what do you like? What do you want? What? And actually putting time and energy into your sex lives. And not just, couples, but as an individuals are really what makes you tick, because we go 1,000 miles per hour through life, and especially as women, it's all about pleasing the man. It's all about what does the man want, got to find a man, without actually being selfish.
I haven't found that woman yet, but that's interesting. It's interesting.
Well, hopefully they're dying out. Do you find that people confuse you with the company in many ways? Because I suppose, do you ever want to come out and say, hang on a minute, guys, I'm not some sort of brazen...
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Well, you're a mum, you're a wife, you live a pretty normal life.
I'm really boring. I'm involved in the PTA at school, it's sort of, yeah. But a lot of people always go, well, you're not what we were expecting. I'm like, what were you expecting? Some sort of dominatrix clad in leather with whips. Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I know that the day that we came to see you and were filming, you came to us at some stage and said, oh, people wear masks. You see, they wear masks, and you have to guess. Well, you don't guess. They reveal their identity to you and probably reveal other things to you if you want. But anyway, the point is that Emma came and said, someone says you've recognised them. Right? Oh
yeah.
Yeah. It was somebody from ITV. I don't know who it was, an executive or what the heck it was. And we genuinely didn't recognise
I told him that, but you get some big egos thinking that it's all about them, and obviously every single person knows who they are.
Yeah.
No one recognises them. Right?
Needless to say, we weren't wearing masks. We were totally exposed.
You were just observing.
And I tell you, and as soon as Emma told us to go, well, that was us out the door.
Yeah,
out the door.
Right,
that was it.
Right.
So, killing kittens, killing it business-wise as well. Emma Sale, thank you very much indeed. She's the boss. She's the CEO and founder of Killing Kittens. If you didn't understand what we're talking about, look it up, Google it. Okay. Thanks very much indeed. And I'll tell you who'll know all about that. He'll understand.
Yeah.
Andrew Pearce. He'll understand.
He's coming in to talk about all the big stories.
Oh, he'll be licking his lips at that one, talking about all of this. Andrew Pearce from the Daily Mail after this break.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital. Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment. We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Where would you like to go?
Just take me to the studio, please, Matt. You know where you're going. I've got a show to do. Friday Night Feast on GB News, 7 p.m. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We take a different angle on the week's biggest news stories. The viewers and listeners set me some absolutely mad challenges to do. We tried to rehome a rescue dog. And yes, there's some other wacky stuff in there as well. I feel like I could take on the world. Well, that's that. Friday Night Feast with me, Patrick Christie's, every Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. on GB News. Be there.
Well, look, we're talking through today's big stories in an entertaining and informative way now with Andrew Pearce, the consultant editor of the Daily Mail. Very good to see you.
Good morning. Just reading your column, lots to talk about. Actually, we're going to start on the Pincher scandal, which you haven't talked about in your column today, or the little mention of the Carlton Club, which was the scene of the original crimes. Your take on all the news over the weekend as more and more people coming out and possibly a police inquiry now?
I think this is actually quite damaging for the Prime Minister, because a lot of Tory MPs are saying this is all about his judgment again, because if he didn't know the stories about Pincher, why didn't he? Because there was a lot of talk about him. And if he did, why did he make him Deputy Chief Whip in charge of party discipline? And we know about Pincher.
We're going to get argument
Boris's.
today as they go apoplectic, all the Boris supporters, and they'll be saying, but Theresa May knew about him, David Cameron knew about him.
Well, and Theresa May brought him back in gave him a job in government.
But he got cleared, didn't he?
He was, because there was an
2017.
It was a very odd inquiry about the fact he was in his home with an Olympic rower and made a pass at him. Why was that a subject of a complaint in the first place? Olympic rower could look after himself. He's 6'4". Pincher's about 5'8". So that was a very odd complaint in the first place. But yeah, Theresa May approved him. The vicar's daughter, David Cameron, who knew all about him. So I mean, what he was, Pincher, he was good at his job as Deputy Chief Whip.
So what I'm saying is, why would the criticism of Boris Johnson?
Because there's any excuse to have a go at Boris these days. That's the point. There's a clamour for some Tories are still desperate to get him out. I don't think this will be it. He's still, in my view, under most threat from this Privileges Committee investigation as to whether he misled the Commons over Partygate.
Do you think there'll be another by-election?
If the police are involved, and then I think he'll resign. If the police charge him, he'll resign.
Right.
And it'll be a by-election, and that will be a by-election actually that Labour might not want, because it's a 20,000 majority. They ought to win it mid-term. They ought to win it big. But Keir Starmer is a dud.
So nobody wants that by-election.
Nobody.
So as a result, he might be kept in position despite his...
Well, one of the names always being associated as a rival or possible successor to Keir Starmer is Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Greater Manchester. In the Mirror today, it reports him as supporting the rail strikes.
Yeah, and also the ground crew workers at British Airways. That's a clear statement from Burnham as opposed to Keir Starmer. And this is him appealing to the left, he's appealing to party activists, because Andy Burnham is on manoeuvres, because I think he is a plausible Labour leader. Quite easy to get him a safe seat up in the north. He's the king of the north, self-styled.
Very media-friendly.
Very media-friendly. He looks good, he sounds good, he's got experience, he's been a minister. He's been around the block. He's very popular in the north.
Yeah, but just how would that work? I mean, if he obviously needs to get elected before he could run. So if there was an election, he couldn't run for...
He'd have to get a seat. They'd have to find him a seat.
So it's a long way off. Or could he run for leader/PM pending election?
No, he'd have to be an MP.
So
but I think he'll get a safe seat in the run at the next election. And
or if somebody dies or something.
Something like that.
You know who's being linked, if he does move, with his role as Mayor of Greater Manchester? The footballer, the former Man United right back, Gary Neville.
Very popular up there. Big name in Manchester. Very articulate.
Says it as it is.
He does, and he's one of the few celeb, if we can use that awful word, supporters of the Labour Party. and he'd be very popular up there.
Yeah. The army, their social media accounts, their Facebook, their Instagram, their Twitter accounts hacked by these awful cryptocurrency pains in the backside.
I know, and they've posted all these weird and wonderful memes. Why do they do it? I just don't get it.
I don't really understand.
No,
it's
I
like
don't
another
understand
world,
it.
these non-fungible tokens and everything.
I think they're selling the idea. So if they pop up on your Instagram or whatever it is, it's like hoping some of your followers will follow them.
Yeah.
I assume that's what it is.
It's a way of trying to promote it, but I mean, I don't understand any of that world actually. Bitcoin and
but it's like pyramid selling. Basically, if somebody makes money out of you buying this and whatever, and they always talk about mentors, people who have helped them through this sort of thing. But it's really quite serious stuff. I mean, to get in, I mean, we talk about, you know, what the Russians may be able to do.
Yeah.
But here you've got whoever the cryptocurrency army is. The British Army's Twitter page promotes competitions and giveaways after a cyber attack.
And you can just imagine some 24-year-old geek in his study with big round glasses doing all this. I mean, they're
There's a movie in it, isn't there? You
There
can
is.
just imagine.
There is.
Can we talk about Matt Hancock? You know, obviously ancient history for what he got up to.
You know. It's only a year. Exactly a year last year.
Is it?
Hancock quit the government after that cringe-making embrace with his aide, breaching lockdown rules. He was Secretary of State for Health. All caught spectacularly on CCTV. If you've never watched the video, you should. It's awful.
I have.
It's like a video nasty.
I mean,
isn't
it's
it?
like a teenage disco.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a sort of cringy snog.
But I pointed out in my column today that the Department of Health has spent £10,000 on legal advice as to whether they should remove the CCTV cameras that captured our then Secretary of State for Health in that compromising position. Why do they need lawyers to decide? Can't governments make decisions on anything anymore?
Well, and the result was?
Well, they won't tell us, so that they've got legal advice, and now it's up to the Secretary of State for Health, Sajid Javid, whether to get
quick word
to get
about
rid of it.
Strictly.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about Portillo.
Well, Michael Portillo was interviewed here by Gloria, of course, and she had a great interview with him, and she asked him if he was a national treasure. He said, I'm halfway to becoming a national treasure. I'm not quite like Ed Balls yet.
Yes.
Ed Balls became a national treasure on Strictly. So is Polly Portillo going on Strictly?
There you go.
I think he'd be rather good.
I think he'd be brilliant.
So do I.
I'd love to see that.
I think he'd be quite...
He's a snappy dresser
I
as
think
well.
he is.
He'd
He's a
enjoy
very
the
straight
sequins.
back.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
Yeah, and of course, remember when he lost his seat in 1997? It was one of the defining moments of the general election. People cheered all over the country that Portillo lost his seat. Now he is very popular, courtesy of those railway programmes.
Halfway there.
Hope for us all.
Yeah.
Thank you very much
You'd be
indeed.
great on Strictly. Eamonn on Strictly.
No chance. No, it was
Isabel?
bad enough living through it with my wife, but no.
I'll do it if anyone wants to ask me,
Yeah,
but
no.
I'm still waiting for that.
Thank you.
We'll be back tomorrow from 6 o'clock. That's it, though, from us for today. In the meantime, Tom Harwood's here with the briefing.
Thanks for watching.
Looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK's looking blustery with frequent showers in the north, but drier and brighter across the south. Here's the details. Lunchtime across the southwest of England will be rather cloudy with a few showers around, especially across Cornwall and West Devon. Temperatures will be around 16 or 17 Celsius. Southeast England and East Anglia, however, will be drier, although here sunshine will be rather limited. Despite the cloud, temperatures will be around 20 Celsius. After a cloudy morning across Wales, come lunchtime it'll be brightening up, although there may still be a few showers in the south. Skies will also be brightening up across parts of the Midlands. However, southeastern parts will remain rather cloudy throughout lunchtime. In the sunshine, though, it will be feeling rather warm. Northern England will have a rather blustery lunchtime with some showers, especially towards the west, and it'll feel rather cool in the breeze, but sheltered and in the sun, it'll feel fairly pleasant. Showers will also affect much of Scotland, with the heaviest and most frequent across the northern and western parts of the country. It'll also be rather windy, making it feel pretty cool there. And it'll also be pretty fresh across Northern Ireland, although those showers may start to ease a little as we'll move through lunchtime with some sunny spells developing. So it'll remain showery in the north during the rest of the day, but southern areas will turn drier and brighter. And that's how the weather's shaping up for the rest of the day.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio.
On digital.
Absolutely
absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you. We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We are not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with